Just a bloke in a bar.
What is up, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome to another episode of Bloke in a Bar. I have my main man, the guru, Gurino, if he was from Italy, Gurachi, if he was from Greece, but just the great guru if he's from Australia. How you going, brother?
Good, mate. I've definitely been called worse, so
Yeah.
can wear that one.
Yeah, look, if you've been called, I've been called probably infinite times worse by the people that love me the most. So imagine what people that hate me say.
Called much worse by much prettier. So,
Mate, how was your weekend?
yeah, it was all good, mate. I actually was down at Coogee Bowling Club, saw a lot of bloke and dribblers.
Oh, really?
Their work, a heap. Yep. So
How was that?
It was unreal. Yeah.
I don't leave the house, so I don't know. If you're wearing bloke, sorry, I haven't seen it because I haven't left the house in fucking 2
I went
years.
for a rare venture out of the house, and they were everywhere.
Were you like, when you walked out the door, you're like, oh, fuck the light. Mate, well, I had a great weekend once again. Didn't ask. No one gives a fuck. That's okay. Took the missus to a nice dinner on Sunday night. Wine and dine. I'm a wine and diner, you know. I'm smooth, guru. I'm fucking smooth, mate. Yeah, absolutely. When you've got a face like mine, you got to work with what you got. And it's not physical. It's all mental. Let's just put it that way. The variant has changed again. The government messaged me. They said, you got to fucking isolate your two skits, can't. And I was like, bruh, you can't fucking hold me down. Leave me alone. And they're like, no, everyone's getting two skits from the variant. You're fucking spreading. And I was like, I'll get the fucking potty for the boys and the girls. Anyway, enough shit chat. We have some huge news. Huge news. Oh, sorry, before we get that, brought to you by the beautiful Bloke in a Bar. As Guru has just, a Gurino has just let you know, the people are loving Bloke in a Bar. So grab a case of Bloke in a Bar from your local. 12 stores in the spotlight. Celebrations Diamond Beach, East Toongabbie Cellars, the Bottle Hurstville Grove, DY Bayfields, IGA Plus Liquor Belmore, Steve's Liquor. All stores in Victoria, Steve's Liquor has it. Courtyard Esplanade, Cairns. I think they've got it on tap as well. And they've been supporters since day one. So shout out to the Courtyard and Esplanade, Cairns. Have to visit there if I'm up there one day. Liquor Barons, Wembley, Downs in Perth. Park Ridge Tavern in Brisbane, Celebration Chisholm, Canberra, Westbrook Tavern, Toowoomba, Reef Gateway, Early Beach. Imagine having a bloke on Early Beach. Life doesn't get better than that. It doesn't get better than that. So make sure to grab a case. The best beer in the world, and it is the beer of sport. No other beer in the world is giving you this much dedicated sport content. So grab a case, support the platform. But we have some huge news, Guro. That's if you were Latin. Dolphins sign Jesse Bromwich. Now, this came, like if you're a Melbourne Storm, punch to the dick. If you're a Dolphins fan, you just knock someone out. Boom.
Yeah, very impressive signing. I was going through it the other day. I think there's 4 guys in this competition that have won 3 premierships. He's one of them. Huge signing for the Dolphins. I compared it on my page the other day. I think it's similar to when Melbourne, their first signing was Glenn Lazarus.
Literally the first thing I thought.
Yeah, he's not going to be the best front rower in the game, but he's leadership-wise and everything. I spoke to Peter O'Sullivan on Friday night, and all he said was 2 words: leadership sorted.
Yeah, it's so true. And you know what's crazy? Guess who brought Lazarus to Brisbane?
Yeah.
Wayne Bennett. So I wonder whether Wayne Bennett has gone back to when he started Brisbane and just gone over the recruitment, gone over all the little things he did. Surely, I mean, he probably did. He'd be crazy not to.
Definitely would have.
Just gone, let's just repeat that. It's so interesting. It came out of nowhere. The captain of the Melbourne Storm, the mighty Melbourne Storm. Do you think the only concern, the leadership sorted, the playing ability is sorted, but he will be 33, I think, by the time he gets there? Is that a concern for you, or do you believe that the leadership is so strong that even if he's playing at 80%, not to say he will, it'll be worth it?
I wouldn't say it's a huge concern. In saying that, I had someone message me the other day and say, when you were talking about Melbourne last week, you mentioned how old Jesse Bromwich is, that he's getting older. I thought, yeah, fair enough. So I had to backtrack there a little bit. Yeah. But I think this signing, if he plays for a year, I think his job is done. I think his job will be done in that pre-season. It'll be done Monday to Friday. It'll just be setting standards.
Yeah.
Are there better players than Jesse Bromwich? 100%. I think there's an argument that he's the most experienced player in this competition. He's
That's
played
a fair
close to
point.
300. He's won 3 premierships. He's been in trouble. He's come out the other side. He's played rep football. He's been under Bellamy. He has seen the big 3 come and go. What hasn't Jesse Bromwich seen or done?
And been through the salary cap drama. He would have been in the club as a rookie
Yep.
around that time.
He's played in 5 grand finals. He's won 3.
In your defence with Jesse Bromwich is getting a little bit older, that's relative to Melbourne Storm, the number 1 team in the comp. Whereas, like, it's not the same as saying he's getting a bit older to a team that A, has no big signings, no disrespect to the people that have already been signed. B, is trying to build a club. Do you know what I mean? Like,
Yep.
it's the context is different. Whereas when you look at a red-hot Storm pack, you're right, he is getting a little bit older. Has his footy been as explosive as it has been in the past? Of course not, but this is natural. Like, it's almost a miracle that he's playing as good as he is with how much his body has been through.
And I would argue that, a 34-year-old Jesse Bromwich isn't the same to Melbourne as what a 34-year-old Jesse Bromwich is to a new franchise.
Oh, absolutely.
I think it's a completely different conversation. I heard Wayne Bennett talk about it. He is so happy with this signing. I mean, any young forwards come into the Dolphins, you walk in day one and you've got Jesse Bromwich and Felice Kafusi.
It's not bad.
You're not there to fuck spiders.
And
They're
like
gonna
that, you at least know that forward pack is going to be tough.
Yep, 100%.
Like, there's no doubt that they may not, attacking flair, it's almost sometimes like just a natural gift in a sense. Like, obviously you can work on it. But defense is all attitude. I know it's such a cliche and we all hear it, but it truly is. It's all attitude. No one is really that much bigger, stronger, faster other than Jason Taumalolo in the forwards. Whereas, you look at the Storm, when you go through all the Storm's forward packs, outside of Nelson Asafa Solomona, who has really been an out-and-out genetic freak? Dallas Johnson was a fucking battler. Cameron Smith, not a genetic freak. Jesse Bromwich, not a genetic. These are all... don't get me wrong, they're athletic. And maybe I'm forgetting someone. But like even a Crocker, which we were talking about how it's really interesting. We'll get to that next point. But he's athletically gifted, but he's a mongrel.
Yeah.
And so when you look at Jesse going to the club, you can almost be a bit lighter in the forward pack when it comes to experience because at least you know that those guys' standards that they set. Like whoever gets to a preseason with Jesse Bromwich and Khalees for Kafusi, I was going to say. Fugazi. They're going to be hardened. Now.
Just like you mentioned there how important defensive attitude is.
Yeah.
Who's holding the trophy?
Yeah.
Best defensive team that was battered and bruised, but they were the best defensive team. Their attack was probably the worst it's been for 2 years in the finals.
Yeah.
But they had the best defensive attitude.
And it's crazy because no matter how much we talk about the game opening up and all the new rules and everything like that, the cliche you hear every year you're sitting there with your bloke in a bar beer, well, the last 2 years, sitting with a bloke in a bar beer, and Gus Gould comes on and he says, get that into your rookie. And then he says, defence wins premierships. But it's the truth. Defence wins premierships.
I think as well with Jesse, and we spoke about Melbourne last week. I was thinking about it this morning. This will be the 3rd year in a row that the Melbourne Storm have farewelled their captain. Ooh. Smith, Finucane, Bromwich.
That's so true. And what's crazy is they had a record year last year. It just their system is a world-class system. I know people listening, they're like, I don't want to fucking hear Melbourne Storm system one more time. And that's funny because I get it. If I was listening, I'd be like, man, shut the fuck up about it. But when you look at a guy like Jesse Bromwich, everything's achieved. It's pretty incredible. I think
Melbourne Storm system was on our Bloke/Guru bingo the other day. So.
I saw it. It's so funny because I get it. It's hilarious when people take the piss out of us, and they're absolutely right. They're absolutely right. I say in my opinion too much, and I say I'm not trying to be disrespectful. I do, but when you're speaking for hours and hours and on end, it's so hard not to say things over and over.
I threw it to my girlfriend, and she goes, "You say so much shit. You've got off so easy. Yeah. I could add another 15 things to this."
But
so
it was funny. It's a fair crack, and you're 100% right. We do say those things too much. So, they signed Jesse Bromwich. Now, if you had to guess, what's really interesting is I haven't seen any estimation as to what the contract is. So, this was so under wraps. What are you estimating they got him for?
I don't know. It's hard to... I would say 5s?
Yeah,
6s?
I'd say 5. I reckon a good 2-year deal, 500... Is it 2-year deal?
I think so, yeah.
2-year deal, 500 each year. That's $1 million. Right off into the sunset over the Super League if you want. I don't think they would have paid much more for that because that's getting pretty risky paying, 6-7 for...
And I had a lot of... I had a journalist that I won't mention who messaged me when I was positive about it and said, here is his running numbers for the last 5 years. They've gone down. I just said, doesn't matter. It's not about... This signing isn't about stats. It's about standards. It's about getting a winner into your system. That's end of story.
Yeah, it's about having a coach on the field. How many times, and this is as a Broncos fan, but how many times when we were... Remember the dire straits? We had blokes crying after losses. They were that devastated. How desperate would have we been for Jesse Bromwich on that field to get behind the try line and say, all you young fellas, pull your heads in, we need to get this done. Not pull your heads about the crying. I like that they cared that much. Like, I'm not having a crack about that. What I'm saying is that's how bad it got. That's how desperate we were for an older leader. Yes, maybe he's not going to run Here's a perfect example. Payne Haas, his stats are fucking... We've never seen stats like that from Payne Haas. But he still doesn't have the leadership qualities yet. Obviously, he'll grow into it, that Jesse Bromwich has.
Yep.
And even with his stats, even with the year that we've barely seen a front rower do what Payne Haas has done over the last 2 years, especially 2 years ago. Even that wasn't enough to lift the Broncos out from the bottom of the table. So that just goes more to your point of like, there's so much more to footy than stats, meters, all that kind of stuff. All of these little things like tying in defence, talking to your outside man, your inside man, communicating at marker, knowing how to get your spacing right around marker, knowing when to have line speed, when not to have line speed, knowing when to pull big hits off, knowing when to slow the ball down or let it flow. Like, there is so many little things that how do you measure that? There's no measurement on Fox Sports. So I totally agree with you. It's intangibles at Kaufusi. Like, even Kaufusi, like, what are his numbers?
Yeah, they wouldn't be incredibly impressive. They're not like, but it gets the job done every single week, without a doubt.
And also, another factor about guys like Jesse and Kaufusi is when you've got a team of really talented players that 1 week they play incredible, next week they play okay, next week they play really good, then bad, then okay, then really good. It's so hard to plan as a coach because you don't know what's going to happen each week. Like, how do I plan solid game plans that we slowly build up? Good example is Trent Robinson. So it was... The year they won the premiership, I don't know if you recall, but they started the year terribly.
And is this 18?
I think it was 18.
It was the year that Cronk and Teddy walked in. I think they got done by the Tigers in the first week.
And it was kind of like, oh, shit. Like, Cronk is going okay. Teddy, what happened to Teddy? And so Robinson literally went into his team system, threw everything out, still lost a few games, but kept saying to the boys, this will come good, trust me. This will come good, trust me. And then obviously they go on to win a comp. You can only do that if you've got a bunch of players that can play consistent footy. And although, yes, they were losing, they weren't getting belted. They were playing consistent footy, but they just weren't up at that level they needed to be. And that's what's so important about consistent players is that a coach can go, I know the output they're going to give me each week, so I also know goals I can set, where we can go with our game plan. Look, we don't have that much power, so maybe we need to be faster, all that kind of stuff.
And like mentioning that exact moment you talk about where the Roosters started slow, Robinson made some changes. Like, I look at Jesse Bromwich, he's going to be the hard head in that pack. I think the Roosters, the turning point that season was the moment he moved Radley to 13. That's exactly, and I know Radley's younger and everything, but he was the hard head in that team that it just changed them instantly. And I love this Bromwich signing. I think it's going to be unreal for them. I think it's a great get. Yes, there's better players in the comp, there's better stats. I don't need to hear it. I know.
Yep.
Leadership-wise, he's a winner, though.
And also, let's talk about the context of the market. Who else are you going to get like a Jesse Bromwich for $500K to go to a new club right now? You know, you'd probably have to pay $700. You'd probably have to pay $800K to get Angus Crichton. You know, and that's not to say like Angus Crichton's a fucking absolute gun. Who else you got? You got Junior Paulo probably demanding about $750.
But that's the other thing you look. I love Junior Paulo.
Is he doing
also
the same as
hasn't won a
Jesse?
premiership.
3 premierships.
3. I mean, there's 3 teams that have won premierships in the last 6 years. There's not that many winners in this competition anymore.
For sure. No, I think it's a great signing. Now, the only concern for me is age and luck. And what I mean by luck is, you know, he's clearly durable, but let's say he gets there and then his body just... Because we all have seen it, you know, where players get to a certain age. It could be 33, it could be 30, it could be 29, it could be 27, it could be 36, it could be fucking 300 years old like Cameron Smith. even though his body never started breaking down. But their body just starts to break down a little bit. That's my only worry. I'm not saying it's going to happen, but I do think that, every year that goes on, the chances increase. But I do feel that even if he didn't play that many games, his leadership is going to be so important to the next 5 years of the club that you can cop those little amount of games to build something solid for the future.
If I had to pick a coach for an older front rower, it's Wayne.
Yep.
He might only train 3 days a week. Wayne knows
absolutely.
how to deal with this situation. I'm not overly concerned with it, to be honest with you. And look, it's a 2-year contract. If he only plays one of those years, I still think it's a successful buy.
Yeah, I agree. I totally agree. Okay. Now on to more signing. Dolphins sign Mark Nicholls. If this isn't a Wayne signing, I don't know what is. You know what I mean? It's a battler from his old club. He does it every single time. He finds someone that he turns from a fringe player into a really impressive. Like Mark Nicholls' form towards the end of the year was actually really impressive. Like it was almost to the point where you're going, he's nearly playing as good as Tom Burgess. And Tom Burgess, for me, is having some of the best footy of his career. Now, don't get me wrong, I thought Tom Burgess was their best front rower, but Mark Nicholls went from a guy that was almost lucky to be on the bench to really making inroads against the premier sides and helping to a grand final. What are your thoughts on the Mark Nicholls signing?
With all due respect to Mark Nicholls, I probably don't think we know Mark Nicholls if it wasn't for Wayne Bennett walking into his career, but that's the reality of what Wayne Bennett's able to do. He's able to get the very best at it. We've got to remember, Mark Nicholls walked out of the Melbourne Storm system a few years ago because they thought they couldn't,
Crazy.
what Wayne Bennett's able to do. And this is why, I am super successful. I'm super confident that he's going to be successful up there. I think it's a really good signing, and he's a locker room guy too.
Yeah, he is.
This is where you got all your experienced guys. Now you got your guy that, my favourite part of the year was every time South Sydney put out any content to do with Mark Nicholls.
Yeah,
it was
I
unreal.
loved it. Absolutely.
It was so good.
Yeah, locker room guy for sure. Locker room guy, going to get the job done, wouldn't have broke the bank. You're honestly looking, so it's a 2-year deal, probably 300 a year, maybe even 250, which he would love. He'd be stoked with.
It's unreal. Yep.
And you know that he's going to go and rip and tear because he's given an opportunity at the end of his career. I think it's another shrewd signing. Now, the concern still is, though, you need your game breakers. There is reports that Anthony Milford may sit the year out and then sign with the Dolphins. Pending everything, if it all turns out, that he's cleared of those charges, I think that would be great. Obviously, if he isn't cleared, then that's a very, poor... It's not good at all. But assuming that, if he does pull through, Anthony Milford could be an option for that 6th role, which would actually save them a ton of money.
For sure. And, along with Milf, there is, we've been going through all these teams. How many really quality guys are there that aren't making 17s at the moment? I mean, there's going to be so many options for them to throw money at them. Yeah. As much as they don't have a superstar, and if you would have asked me 6 weeks ago, I was really worried. I was really worried that they hadn't landed anyone yet. There is still going to be a handful of proper stars that I think they're going to be able to get over the next year. And talking to Peter O'Sullivan the other day, he said that they've got a lot of young guys that they're waiting to announce.
Okay.
So, I don't know what young means, whether that means not in first grade yet or young, but mate, there's so much talent in this competition that aren't in 17s every week that a call from Wayne Bennett will change their career in an instant.
Do you think they're still gearing up for a massive Ponga play?
Ponga, Munster, Harry Grant, maybe, I don't know. But I'm sure that there must be someone that I think they're reasonably confident they can get their paws on.
I do know that they thought they had Brendan Smith. As in, basically, had a meeting with him. They thought it was a done deal. And then, so they pulled back on a lot of things they were doing. And then, obviously, he decided to go with the Roosters. So it is interesting that was their plan A. So it's going to be interesting. So the way they're building their squad, it's a very different conversation when you're trying to get a star 9 to trying to get a star 6, star 7. Do you think that they've sat back and gone, okay, we need to recalibrate here. We've missed out on a 9, so now we need to spend them. You know what I mean? Because squad building is so complex.
Well, as much as he's not the best player in the competition, I think a guy that I would be targeting now is Cody Nikorima. He can cover 9 and 7. I believe he's got some family up there as well. So he's a guy that I'd be going for, and then you can sort of start to work around him as well. Whether that means you target a big-time 9, but I'm not sure if there's any other big-time... Harry Grant, if they could pull him away, but mate, that's the other thing. Melbourne's sitting on a ton of coin that they can throw around now.
It's going to be interesting. The Harry Grant situation is really interesting because my understanding is he's a Queensland boy, obviously, and he loves Queensland. And so that lure of being able to come back to Queensland, and when you're, he's a very outdoorsy guy. I think he surfs, so it sounds like such a small thing, like, oh yeah, cool, he surfs. But that lifestyle, going to Melbourne, when it does affect you. A good example is I'm from the Gold Coast, so I'm used to like thongs, the beach, and just very outdoorsy. When I went to New Zealand, it rattled me that it was constantly raining and constantly cold. I had to wear jeans everywhere. I had to wear shoes everywhere. And it sounds so pathetic and childish. But I'm telling you, like, if you're from an area where you were brought up in a certain way, a lifestyle, like how many times do we see, young Indigenous fellas that come maybe from Townsville and they come down to Sydney and it's just not what they want. Yep. I'm a white fella. I went to New Zealand and I was missing Gold Coast and Queensland so bad that I was willing to take a massive pay cut and not take my second. So I had 2 years with a third-year option at the Warriors. I took a huge pay cut to come back to the Broncos just because I wanted to be happy and living in Queensland. And so it's really interesting with Harry Grant because I know it sounds like, oh, don't you just want to win prems and that? And yeah, true. But lifestyle is so important. It's why
the Canberra Raiders have got so many English players or had so many English players. It makes sense. No, I agree 100%. Yeah.
So it's going to be interesting to see that Harry Grant situation unfold. Do the Storm throw a mammoth contract at him, or if they lost Cheese and Grant,
sort of circling back here a little bit to some extent. But do you look at this situation in Melbourne, everyone leaving? As Craig Bellamy maybe said, I'm on my way out here.
I don't think he'd do that
too deep.
I don't think he'd do that to the club. Surely he loves the club. Their whole MO is basically no one's bigger than the club. I think they've proven that time and time again.
So weird to see so many guys.
I think we spoke about this off air or maybe on air. I think the Storm are really good at identifying when a player is about to hit a level that isn't what the Storm level is. Dale Finucane, for example, he was their co-captain. And they, to my understanding, outside looking in, I've got no inside information, but it looked like they helped him find a good deal to free up money to keep the Cheese as their 13. And that's a big call that a lot of other clubs wouldn't have made, a lot of other clubs. But the Storm seem to do it so well where they're so honest with the players with like, look, we don't see a space for you here. We've only got this amount, but we will try to help you get a new deal or whatever. And Dale Finucane, although I think he's in a great signing for the Sharks, he hasn't played his best footy because of his injuries and that for the last year or two. And so do you feel that, maybe Storm are they've prepared for this? Jesse is getting a bit older. Maybe that is the time. Because very rarely do you see the Storm hold on to a player for too long.
Well, and this is the first time ever I've looked at the Storm on paper and gone, they don't look prepared for this. And I'm confident I'll be wrong. And I'm not saying they're not prepared, but just when you look at their squad, it looks like they're not prepared to lose.
No, I agree.
Cheese, Bromwich, like it's a tough situation they're in. Kafusi, there's a lot of guys to bring in there, and there's not a heap of strike in their extended squad, but as we know, Craig Bellamy can get the very best out of anything, anyone. Yeah. So
I feel like we say it every year, but this is his biggest challenge. It really does. Like, not only is he battling this next generation culture that seems to exist with the younger boys, which is totally understandable. He's battling losing truly his old guard.
If you had to predict the next captain of Melbourne, is it Munster's time? Do we give it to Welsh? Do you give it to Harry Grant for the next 10 years?
I think Welsh probably is your man for another year or two, and then Cam's your man. I think that's probably the direction you go. I think that Welsh has been such a leader. He's been their best front rower, in my opinion.
Yep. Sure.
And so I think that basically what will happen is Welsh becomes captain for the next 3 years, and then he probably gets the same, probably gets moved on. Maybe. I mean, I could be wrong, but when you just when you compare it to if they're willing to move Jesse on at 33, who's still playing, when he'll be 33 when he moves, that's probably the age they start looking at forwards and looking at their numbers each year and seeing how they're going. I think Christian Walsh, they go the leader.
It'll be interesting to see if Munster comes out this year and has the season that we're hoping he has, though.
But the problem with giving it him for 2023 is you probably want to see 24 months of it from him.
Of the real deal.
Yeah. Rather than, because we know this next 12 months he's going to be ripping and tearing.
Yeah.
But will he do it again for that next 12 months? Whereas Christian Walsh, I feel, is a very smart option. Don't get me wrong, they could go Cam Munster and he could absolutely brain it. I actually thought a year or two ago I wouldn't have, before all this drama happened, when we kind of thought, Munster has turned the corner and he's and don't get me wrong, I think Munster had a lot of personal stuff this year that went on. I actually was already saying maybe Munster could be the next guy, but I think this is kind of, he took 2 steps forwards and now he took a step back.
I remember before this drama this year thinking, Munster's probably the next captain of Queensland here.
Agreed.
And Melbourne. Who's your next captain of Queensland?
Whew,
is DCE playing till he retires?
That's a tough one.
I mean,
that's a really, really tough one. That's tough. Next captain of Queensland.
Is it Walsh as well?
What, Reece Walsh?
No,
Christian Walsh.
Christian Walsh, yeah.
I was like, Jesus.
It's a bold call.
It's a bold call.
Not my boldest, but still bold.
Probably Christian Walsh, because he has delivered in the Origin arena. Without Christian Walsh, we don't win. We don't win the greatest ever victory.
He's your first forward picked.
He truly, and he has surprised me. I didn't think he physically had it in him to go that next level, and he truly did. Yep. His line speed leading that forward pack against New South Wales in that third game, it was just relentless. So I think you're probably going to go with Christian Walsh. I think DCE, the only way DCE doesn't probably retire captain is if Sam Walker gets that spot from him. I don't think that'll happen this year coming, but the following year maybe Sam Walker does take that jersey. Again, who knows? Another half could pop up, or DCE continues to play some good footy, or maybe Munster in not this coming year, but the following year. Because I personally believe that Queensland are a more dangerous side when Munster is the tip of the spear. I think DCE is really good at laying the platform for Munster, but when DCE is the tip of the spear, I think that it throws Munster off a bit and they don't work really well together. Put it this way. DCE can lay the foundation and be the tip of the spear to an extent, whereas I think Munster can just be the tip of the spear. He can lay the foundation, but not to the same ability that probably DCE can. Interesting. I don't know what the answer is to that.
Can I throw one more hypothetical at you?
Yeah,
we're getting further and further away from
of course
it should be. But anyway, if DCE was to be injured for Origin this year, do you go Walker or do you go Hunt?
Oh, man. That's a tough
Do you go
call.
whoever would be better for Munster, or do you
I think you go Hunt. You go Hunt, and you just say to Benny, Brucey, just lay the platform and let Munster attack.
I thought he was Queensland's best player in Game 3 last year. He brained it. He was.
I know that I'm probably wrong, and I think he's a better 9 than 7.
He's a heaps better 9 than 7. I don't think there's any denying it in any way, shape, or form.
He's so good. At 9, he is unbelievable. Don't get me wrong, he had one of his best years outside of some of his years at Broncos. Last year for Dragons, he had one of his best years. He was great. But I love him at 9, and I know he wants to play 7, so I don't want to disrespect. When you're a player and you hear that, you're like, come on, bro. But I just love him. I think he's a really good 7. I think he's a great 9. A great 9.
I agree. I had someone message me the other day and say, do you think Ben Hunt will link back up with the Dolphins? And I sort of said, I was pitching him in the 7, but then I was like, fuck, if they signed him as a 9, that would be unreal. If he linked up with Wayne again.
It would also be unreal because, let's say you sign him as a 9, but you fail to sign a 7, but you've got a solid 9.
You've got a Nicarima there.
Exactly. You just chuck Brucey in at 7. Yep. That's interesting. Ben Hunt to the on a discounted deal. I tell you what, I don't mind it. Brucey, what's he signed? What year is he signed till? I don't mind it at all, actually.
Dragons have so many young halves coming through.
And you just know they're not paying him $1 million a year again.
23.
Ooh. It's not a bad signing. He'll be, 31? About 31?
Imagine if Wayne gets Milf and Hunt back.
And he could afford that because, discounted for
and
both
he'll make it work. You know he will.
Oh, my God. Could it be? Could a reunion of Milford and Hunt? Great signings. Now, I think it was yesterday, Peter V'landys has come out on Fox League. And obviously there's been a lot of chitter-chatter about the rules and all the changes and blah, blah, blah. And as you guys know on the podcast, I'm sure you spoke about it well on podcast, for quite a while now, I've been saying that this 6 again rule, because it wasn't tested in New South Wales Cup, and in Queensland Cup, we didn't give it time to see how coaches would exploit it. And so coaches were going, all right, if they're in their own end, we'll give away an extra tackle and we'll just tackle one more tackle. But the difference is that if we just honestly absurdly lie on the ruck, so much so that our whole line is set, then the attacking team loses that whole set because look at the grand final. Look
Exhibit A. Yep.
Exhibit A. Penrith Panthers just said, fuck it, we'll be offside, we'll line them, and the first 2 tackles will do that. If we get pinged, we're happy to make an extra tackle. And for so long I was constantly saying, how much as an attacking team would you rather you get a penalty on your first tackle and then kick the ball 40 metres out? Now you're in an attacking set. It was it seemed so obvious to me, and that was the issue I had with the rule changes, that they didn't give it enough time to test it in reserve grade. But anyway, the rules happened, which I'm happy they did happen because I thought the wrestle was killing the game. So V'landys has come out and said, we want to consolidate the rules now. They now need bedding down. It's certainly opened the game up to be more entertaining and brought the brilliant players back into vogue. Vogue means into fashion, people. Without the rule changes, I don't think players like Sam Walker and Reece Walsh would have been as dominant as they were. I don't agree with that. Because Reece Walsh and Sam Walker dominated all through the lower grades with the old rules.
It didn't hinder them, but it wasn't the sole reason.
Yeah, no. I think Sam Walker kills it and Reece Walsh kills it in any capacity. Anyway, the only rule changes we're going to make is that when you're inside your own 40-metre line and a defensive team is offside, it won't be 6 again, it will be a penalty. Teams were giving away 6 again to keep the pressure on the other team. We want to eradicate that. If you give away a penalty and they get themselves out of their own territory, it takes away from that. That's the only thing we're looking at. In any sport or industry, you've got to look at ways at improving. You can't sit still, but we've done enough for the time being. Thoughts?
Nailed it.
And just for listeners, it is my understanding that the refs have a discretion to blow a penalty if someone is lying too long. So a lot of people are like, well, it should have been for every infringement inside the 40, it's a penalty. But it's my understanding that the refs have the discretion of that is so obvious that he's lying, penalty. Is that your understanding too?
Yeah, that's my understanding too. And I think it's good. I think it's a good change. I was worried watching that grand final that they weren't going to make a change.
Yep.
But I'm glad they have. I think it'll open up the game a little bit more. I love that grand final. It was a great game.
Yeah.
But good God, it was hard watching the Bunnies come out of their own end.
Oh, they literally
couldn't. They haven't looked like that all year.
20 metres they'd make max.
Yeah,
max.
And as you said, lie down, 6 again. We're going to bash you, put you on your back that tackle, and it doesn't matter.
It honestly doesn't matter. It honestly doesn't matter. And matter of fact, it's almost even worse because that first tackle is so slow and absurd that you just get absolutely battered that next tackle and then battered the next tackle after that. And I actually like that it's not an automatic penalty for lying in the ruck coming out of your own 40 and it's at the ref's discretion because if it is fourth tackle, I do want 6 again. You know what I mean? Let's say I'm at my 30 and it's fourth tackle and they lie on the tackle. I want 6 again. I don't want to kick the ball out.
It's my only worry whenever the word discretion comes in. It's a grey area and people will wait until there's a discretion call that doesn't suit them and then lose their heads. But that's just the reality of our game.
I honestly think that they'll be saying to the refs, look, if it's on the first or second tackle, just blow the penalty.
Yep.
If it's third, fourth and fifth, it's up to you. Going to be interesting. But Look, I'm glad they made the rule change. A lot of people are saying, too many rule changes. But when you actually think about the thought process of this rule change, it actually doesn't complicate the game for the players. It only complicates it for the referee. And what I mean by that is the players still have two options: lie on a player or not lie on a player. Whereas the ref, they're the ones that it's a little bit more complicated. Am I inside the 40? Yes, I am. It's a penalty.
I can't wait till he gives away his first penalty on the 41-metre line and everyone loses their mind.
I was thinking about the same thing. I was thinking about the same thing. I was like, oh no.
We don't apply an inch of common sense. But
there'll be like replays, like try replays.
Yeah, look at where his foot is though.
Yeah.
Fuck.
It's like, come on guys.
Miss me.
Look, it's close. It's the red line. It's there. Going to be interesting if defensive teams will go, they're over the 40 boys, let's just line them. That'll be really interesting. And
mate, I've been saying it for years on my podcast. The NRL, when Craig Bellamy decides he's had enough, they should hire him just to come sit in their room, say, help us.
Yeah.
Like I'm not smart enough to work out how the coaches are going to take advantage of this, but they'll find a way.
Yeah.
In 18 months' time, we'll be having another conversation why this didn't work and why we need to change something else, because Bellamy, Robinson, Hasler just absolutely take it for a piss ride.
I will say my only other big concern is play on their defensive try line. I do feel that a lot of teams are just like, fuck it. We'll just because we've got our set defensive line, we're on our line. We'll just keep giving penalties away until they don't get.
And it sounds weird, but it's the easiest place to defend.
Yeah,
because you got to consider you're not going back 10. You're not on your back foot.
Yeah, constantly.
Bang. It's a training drill. You're set. You hold your line.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so that is my concern, where I honestly believe, like, I hope they test it. I hope they test it New South Wales and Queensland Cup. But, like, if you give 2 infringements away, I think third infringement, 5 in the bin or something. Something to deter just penalty after penalty after penalty. It does my head in when the ref's like, don't do it again. Another penalty. Don't do it again. And you're just like, bro, the momentum is totally shifted now. They didn't score. Their head's down now, and all of a sudden there's 6 points that it turns to a 12-point turnaround. So I hopefully they look at ways at eradicating that.
Which, like, I think everyone would agree with that until a front rower gives away 3 penalties, and then on the 4th one your halfback gets sent off.
Yeah, for sure.
And then it's carnage.
But in saying that, it's a team sport. You cop it.
Yeah.
Don't blow up at us. Blow up at your front rower that just gave away fucking 3 penalties. Yeah. But you're right. Look, I think fans will always, I shouldn't say fans. We all will always complain. We love that shit.
I feel like after, you'll be the same after being on social media for so long, it's like you've got a sixth sense for what is going to be the issue.
Yeah, for sure.
Like you see it coming from a mile away. What grey area is going to screw us over here?
Yeah, for sure. And also you see the rise and fall of players' love. So, for example, it happens every time. Young gun comes in, everyone loves them. They're the greatest. Couple years in, they're still killing it. Nah, he's overrated. He's shit. He's this. Perfect example. Penrith Panthers come in, they shake the comp up. Everyone loves them. Look at the swagger of the new boys. Look at the new breed that they're bringing in, the energy. It's all different. Fuck yeah, Penny Panthers. Next year, arrogant, cocky. Like, who do they think they are? The year before that, Canberra Raiders, the underdogs, up the fucking milk. Like, yeah, the boys are going to get the job done. The next year, they're rough. You've got, you know what I mean? It's just like every single time. Anyway,
I remember when Cam Munster was like Joey because he got on the beers and played footy, and a year later, everyone's like, yeah, he needs to get off the drink for that. Sort himself out. It's like, fuck, what?
You do realise that he was on a bender before he had that crazy, like, this is what he does.
And he was the most popular guy in the country for a week there.
100%. The beauty of rugby league. We're all guilty of it. Now, we will get... Panthers re-sign Edwards. Look, I mean, this is a by-the-numbers kind of thing. Like, he suits their team perfectly, doesn't break the bank, but his stats, especially towards the end of last year, were actually getting close to, like, Teddy's stats.
I was having a look at the Panthers' record the last 2 years. He's lost 4 games of football in 2 years.
Wow.
2 of them were in Origin-affected teams. You look back at that final series, who was the only Panthers player missing in week 1 against the South Sydney Rabbitohs?
Wow.
Dylan Edwards.
He's so important for their meters in the start of their sets.
Came back in the next 3 weeks. Cleary thought he was going to get injured every single week, and he killed it for 3 weeks, and they won out to win a premiership. So
yeah, I think it's a great signing, and I just... When you're the Panthers, you're almost like, oh, fuck, we're blessed because we've got this fullback that isn't going to break the bank, but we know we can win premierships with him.
He's very Luke Patton. You know what you're getting every single week. He's loyal. He's consistent. You know he's not going to play Origin. You know he's not going to, he's going to be there every single week, and you're going to get value out of him every single week.
Absolutely. And we can win premierships with him.
We've shown we can win premierships.
Like it's not, a lot of teams you look at their fullback and you go, like, even I don't care how good the rest of their team is, they can't win a premiership because their fullback is just not electric enough. Yeah. Whereas you look at, like, Edwards has proven, obviously Cleary did a lot of heavy lifting, but that doesn't matter. It's a team sport.
Like that, they've always, I think people forget when Matt Moylan was at his absolute best, this kid debuted and they moved Moyes at a 6. Like they've always had Dylan Edwards held in very high regard. I think it's a great story, especially for a guy like Dylan Edwards when you've got Stephen Crichton in the team.
For sure.
Everyone wants Stephen Crichton at 1, but they don't lose with him.
Yeah, absolutely. And also, I feel like Crichton can be a weapon in other positions.
Yeah.
Literally any other position, he can impact the game. The grand final put it this way. Let's say they had swapped Crichton to fullback and it was on the wing. He doesn't take that intercept.
No one else takes that intercept.
Literally.
If Crichton was playing fullback the entire final series, I think they lose in week 2.
Yeah, that's true.
Like he had every position that he played in was when he was out on the wing. He took an intercept in every game that decided the match.
Yeah, and a couple of try savers too.
Yeah. I'm not sure if you remember, Matty, you'd remember that game against you guys week 1 of the finals. He killed it too, Stephen Crichton. I think he scored 2 tries. He was unreal.
Yeah.
Didn't win the game. Edwards walks back in.
Yeah, it's great. It's such another perfect example of, like, sometimes the best player isn't the best player for that position.
Yep.
If you were going to pick a side, you would probably pick Crichton at fullback. But what he has to offer in other positions and the balance of the side, Edwards suits us better. He just does, which is crazy because, like, I think Crichton is so fucking talented. I think it's going to be really interesting because I'm not surprised they kept Crichton because he seems like a very loyal to that group, but he's going to want fullback money eventually.
100%.
He's not going to stay on
and he
centre
deserves
money.
it.
He absolutely deserves it. Absolutely. Like, he's so good in my eyes. In a couple of years, if he continues developing the way he is, I can see a $700K contract given to him. Easy. He
just came up with, I'm going to say, a top 4 grand final play ever.
Yeah. So big. Fuck, it was big. And it was so good because it happened in the games before. Yeah. So it was like, that wasn't a fluke. This was a guy going for a play that he's good at and only he can do, and he did it in the grand final.
Remember his debut? He ran on the field and scored 6 seconds later.
That was fucking mental. That was mental. Actually, there is I got this wrong too. I actually don't think that was his debut. It was his first game for the year. Can you look that up?
I'm not as confident now you say that.
No, because I remember getting pizzled in the comment section.
Of course you did.
Not his debut. And I was like, oh, fuck, sorry, bro. Bloke in a bar has gotten into such a place now. And it's...
You're actually right too. He played the year before.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Well, I'm not right. The guy that pizzled me. Yeah, the guy that pizzled me was right.
Yeah, he played 4 games the year before.
Yeah. So, look, hey, I'm just passing on my fucking trauma, all right? But what's really interesting now is, like, now I'm getting into a space where, like, if I don't post, like, an Oz Open thing, there'll be someone that's like, why the fuck aren't you posting this? And, like, if I don't post and it's just like, bruh, like, you do realise there's one dude doing this, like, but in saying that, like, I'm extremely lucky for it. Like, you'd rather have that than not have that. But sometimes you're like, am I allowed to take the missus out and actually live a little? Anyway. In saying that, fuck, I wouldn't trade it for the world. Extremely lucky to have it.
Yeah.
I used to be on a fucking work site covered in coal. Gurino, Gurici. Can you imagine me on a work site covered in coal? I don't think you could.
I'm struggling to picture it. Couldn't imagine myself there, I can tell you that much for free.
Fucking hell. Anyway, now we are on to the final 8 teams, the deep dive into the top 30 or their top squads in general. We have, this year is our year, the great New Zealand Warriors. Average age of their second row is 25. Average experience is 39. Average age of their props is 25. Average experience is 58. Hooker. Average age is 21. Total experience, average experience is 23. Lock, average experience is 91. Average age is 27. Fullback, average age is 23. Average age is 21. Average experience is 23. Wing, there's 4 players there. Average age is 22. Average experience is 40. Centers, average experience is 56. Average age is 23. Halves, average age 27. Average experience, 128. I like that. Thoughts on the Warriors squad going into 2022?
I actually really like their squad. I think they've built really well over the last few years. I think Phil Gould and Peter O'Sullivan did a really good job building this side they've got. Sean Johnson comes in as the chef's kiss. I'm so excited to see him. I know he's been there before, but they're two different guys. Two vastly different footballers.
Playing style, mentally, everything.
Everything. He's like I would put SJ and Christian Walsh as sort of like voices of the players right now.
Yeah.
I've been so impressed with the character arc of Sean Johnson over the last few years, and I can't wait to see him back there. How good would it be their first game back in New Zealand with SJ in the seventh?
Oh, and they get the win.
Yeah, unreal.
Far out.
Unreal.
Yeah, I totally agree, man. His ability to come through the other side of just absolute insurmountable pressure and not backlash from the fans, but there was a period there where he was just getting hammered.
You spoke about the roller coaster of players. Like, remember when he debuted 2011?
Oh, yeah.
Superstar. Couldn't do a thing wrong. Then it was 5 years of absolute trash. He went to Cronulla. People gave it to him. He killed it there.
Yep.
He's probably an injury away from winning a Dally M, realistically.
Yeah, especially that when he did his Achilles, was it? Was it his Achilles?
Was it 19 or 20? I think it was 2020.
Against the Raiders, I think they probably would have made the finals if he was still playing. They were winning the game, weren't they? And then I'm with you. I think the only thing that hurt him at the Sharks was injury.
Yeah, that's the only thing that hurt him.
Outside of that, he was playing some really mature footy. Now, I've got so much respect for a guy like SJ because how many times have we seen a young superstar come in, kill it, then the weight of negativity that, if they have a few bad years, just absolutely decimates their confidence. SJ has managed to not only completely change his game because his body clearly can't, do the stuff that it did when he was younger. He's managed to become a good, solid, almost foundational laying seven. Like, he lays foundations for his team and his club. If he can stay injury free, they're a different side. They truly are. And I love that he's gone back to New Zealand. I think that's the best way for him to end his career is with the Warriors. And I think that because he's been through so much, he will be able to help guys like Reece Walsh, all the young fellas coming through, even Chanel to an extent. I think it's such a good signing. He should have. I wish he never left. And I know that it was because, the club kind of moved him on rather than him wanting to leave. But he's the kind of guy that when you talk about how do we compensate clubs so they can keep players as one club players, you wish he would have stayed at the Warriors forever. In saying that, the growth that he had.
Yeah, he's not the same bloke if he stays for me.
Yeah, so you could argue that the getting away was the best thing, but would have been good to see him be a one club player. Would have been good.
Yeah, I think what you mentioned there, the impact on Reece Walsh is going to be sensational. I can't wait to watch these two play alongside each other. It's going to be so exciting.
Yeah,
I can't wait to see it. And I know people think it's ridiculous, but if the Warriors win a comp in the next 2 years, letting Sean Johnson go will be one of the best moves they ever made. Yeah, as they bring back a new guy.
Yeah. Oh, totally. Even if they make the finals and go a little bit deep into the finals, they get to a prelim or something, you could argue that it was the best decision they ever made.
I love too that, from what I've gathered, he was almost signed and sealed to go to Canterbury.
Yeah, Gus Gould nearly got him there. Pretty much.
I think he was going. Yeah. I think he was just about done, and then he got in contact with the Warriors and was sort of like, from what I've gathered, I don't
Actually,
care.
No, sorry. I think it was Gus that got him to the Warriors, I think, if I recall correctly.
That timeline lines up. Yeah, but I'm pretty sure he was going to Canterbury. Yeah. I'm pretty sure he was going to Canterbury.
Matt Burton, SJ?
Would have been... mate, can you imagine the conversation we're having about Canterbury if you put Sean Johnson to that side?
Do they get Reed Marnie, though, if he goes? Can they afford him?
Probably not, but... Yeah.
SJM, Burton.
You get a premier halfback to partner with Burton. Yeah. I would... Yeah.
SJ,
but anyway, he's at the Warriors.
Yeah.
I think he's going to do very well. I love the Warriors squad. I love their forwards. So, mate, if you have a look at that list of their second rowers and their front rowers, Katoa, Curran, Sirinen, Murdoch, Masilla, Murchie, Fanua Blake, Lodge, Afoa, Penne, Jackson Fry. We don't even have Ewan Aiken. I think we've got Ewan Aiken in the centres because he's going to be there now.
He's a forward now.
He's a forward now, yeah. That is stacked. I've been so impressed with Bailey Sirinen. Ben Murdoch Masilla's been great. They're not going to be in the starting pack.
Josh Curran's improvement was so massive last year. And I just loved the way he played, just ripped and teared every single game. And it was kind of like one of those situations where you saw him play we see it all the time. Like this guy comes in and he plays like 5-6 good games, and you're like, oh, look at this little fucking ripper and tear up. But then he goes a bit quiet. But he just kept getting better and better and better.
I watched Josh Curran a few years ago playing reserve grade. Yeah, maybe it's a blight on me, but I honestly did not think he was that special.
Yeah.
I didn't think he'd last in first grade that long. What he did last year was incredible.
Yeah.
Unbelievable. I think that with him and Ewan Aiken, I think they're both going to suit Sean Johnson so well too.
Yeah.
Ash Taylor is the other one that stands out for me.
Yeah, no, Ash Taylor. Well, just quickly on that forward pack though, Adam Fanor-Blake, the quality of his front row performances are so high. And if he was playing, I mean, when he was at Manly, he was becoming a big deal. But if he was still playing in Australia, he would be, constantly talked about top 3 forward. Every stint he has is such an elite level of footy. I really like what he's doing at the Warriors. Matt Lodge as well. I still think Matt Lodge has got a bit in him, like 100%. In the sense of a bit of improvement. I think that, like, obviously everything he's been through and, the negative things that he's done and recovered from, I don't think the Broncos was probably the best environment for him. It was because
at that time.
It was, at that time. Now it would be different. But it was so toxic these last few years of the Broncos. Like, I don't know how any of those got, like, the mental space those boys would have been in would have been so tough because it was so bad there. Whereas I think going to the Warriors is going to take, like, don't get me wrong, he lost his head in one of those last games. I just think that he's going to mature quite a lot over in New Zealand. And also, out of sight, in New Zealand, no distractions. You're just there to get a job done. I think that pairing, and then you're bringing Bunty off the bench, and then Aaron Penne is obviously Storm.
Penne is the one to watch.
Yeah, could be anything. When you look at that bench and you go Fanor-Blake, Matt Lodge starting, you've got Bunty and Penne on the bench. It's a strong forward pack. And then you've got Sirinen that may make the bench. You've got Ewan that will probably be on the edge. You've got Curran that will probably be... Would you play Curran at 13 and Harris at 12 or 11?
I was just looking at their side. Obviously, Tohu's out for the first half of the season.
Yep.
He's got his ACL, so I think when Tohu's in the team, I think Murdoch-Masila becomes a middle. I think he sort of drops back to that other side. 13's an interesting one. The other thing with this side is that they're going to have Ash Taylor at 6, I think. Could you, Chanel Harris-Tavita, he's a tough little bastard. Could you move him into the 13 jersey just to get him in the team?
Oh, man. He is tough. I just don't know the size. Like, if I'm an opposing forward pack, I'm just, boys, run it Chanel. Like,
run it Chanel,
like, for example, the first few sets, he'll hold his own, but when he gets fatigued and he's got big boys running at him, I know what you mean, though, like, the dynamic
I want him
element.
in the team somewhere.
Yeah. But also the dynamic element he could bring to their attack, connecting between SJ, Ash Taylor, Reece Walsh would be pretty incredible.
But based on what we saw last year, I would love to have Josh Curran at 13, but, man, I just thought he was so good on an edge. It's hard not to...
So what, you keep to Vega at 13?
Man, I don't know if I've got a spot for Jazz, and he's the toughest bloke in the football team.
Mate, I love him in defence, and I love the attitude he brings. It's just the ball playing that, with the modern game, that's why I say, like, I feel like Curran probably has a little bit better ball playing. And I feel like they've got enough big boppers to run those edge plays. I don't know. It'd be interesting. The good thing is they got options.
Got so many options.
I
mean, Tohu Harris, their best forward, is out for the first season, and I've got to tell you, I'm not overly worried. They'll be okay.
Even though
he's a gun.
He's like so underrated, it's criminal.
Yes, yeah.
He's like so underrated, it's criminal. But you're right. Like, it's not like last season you could almost be like, oh shit. Whereas, like, they've just developed such a good forward pack over the last couple of years. Reece Walsh, I think, is going to be fantastic. You look at their outside backs. Look, that's probably like one area where they had been always so dominant is they'd always have good wingers and these kind of like almost the best wingers in the comp. Now, with Tani Zalesniak, on his day, can be one of the better wingers. Do you feel that their wings aren't as... Now, they've got a couple of really good young fellas, but we haven't seen them kill it.
I think the guy at the bottom of that list, I think the last name is pronounced Vale.
Yep.
I think he's going to be something special.
Okay.
I know Peter O'Sullivan was very keen on him when he got him.
Yep.
I also think Rocco Berry was scratching
Rocco.
the surface with him.
Love Rocco Berry.
He has got real ability. And I think it's great they've got DWZ there too.
Yeah. Man, it's just his errors. Like if you could just cut the errors out of his game, like he runs so hard. He always gets through so much work. I think he's going to have a good year.
Especially with SJ there now.
Yeah.
There's not much better real estate than the right wing outside of SJ.
Yep.
That's where you want to be. I think DWZ is in for a big season. You're right, there are errors in him, but fuck, I reckon he's the last back in rugby league I want running at me.
Oh, and the good thing about a guy like Dallin is he's not going to cut it ever.
Ever.
There's very, very rare games where, he's not having a crack. You can fix the errors. It's all just concentration. That's honestly... Errors from outside backs in tackles is, sometimes you're going to get hit perfectly and you're going to drop the ball. That is, given, especially when you run as hard as Dallin. But most of the time, errors with outside back, it's just a lack of concentration. It's that split second where you stop thinking about carrying the ball. So I think Dallin can fix that. He's only 26.
Well, that's the other thing I love about him. You're right. He could take the first 8 hit-ups and drop all 8 of them. He's going to take the 9th one.
Yeah.
I do love that about him.
Interesting. Do you think Reece Walsh second year syndrome, or do you think he propels forward?
With SJ there, I'm a lot more confident. If SJ wasn't there, I love Reece Walsh, so I'm openly biased because I'm a huge fan of him. I actually think that, and in a weird way, him getting in trouble at the end of the season
will be the best thing to ever happen to him. The negative for me, and it's not Reece Walsh's fault, he's shown a tendency to bite back at a lot of niggle. And so, when you're an NRL team, you identify this and you go, oi, Tony Carroll, fucking have a crack at that bloke. And you just send your dogs after him. So he's got to find a way to realise he is going to be battered. And you know who handled that kind of shit last year really well? Sam Walker. He would constantly get battered, but he never really engaged in the niggle of it. And don't get me wrong, it's double-edged sword. You want Reece Walsh competitive. You want him fucking jumping in there and yipping and yahooing and all that kind of stuff. But I think the coach has got to sit him down and be like, mate, this season you are going to get targeted so much. You're fucking such a good player. You're a good sort. You're a pretty boy. You've got the world at your feet. If there was a person that God created for mongrel footy players to fucking want to niggle, it's Reece Walsh. A pretty boy that's a superstar. So I feel like in this season, he's just got to, it's going to happen. You've got to accept your fate. You're going to get niggled. You're going to have late shots. You're going to get players grabbing your jersey, pulling you behind, stepping on your fingers, all that kind of stuff. Now, look, I was nowhere near as fucking, definitely not as good looking as Reece, that's fucking for sure.
I was about to mention that.
Yeah. Jesus Christ. It's almost offensive to put the same sentence. But even me, when I was coming through, people would say, fuck, the similar things. They would step my fingers, they would niggle me because I was seen as not like a rough footy player. I know, Guru, I know I look like a fucking hard cunt. I know I look fucking tough, but I'm actually not. And it was just something I had to deal with.
But he also, there was moments last season where front rowers had hit Chad Townsend after a kick and he'd run back and have a crack at him. It wasn't even them annoying him.
He just got to not engage that because it's a target on his back then.
Yeah.
Then it's like, that's not your role in the team. And it's actually more mentally tough to disengage from that. So put it this way, if you're Melbourne Storm, you're niggling the fuck out of him. Like every chance you get, just piss him off. And so, and that's all part and parcel of becoming a superstar. This is me saying that in the hope that Reece Walsh does go to another level. And I think he will. Just don't engage with the rough stuff. That's what you've got Jazz for. That's what you got Adam Fanua-Blake
fight my way out of a brown paper bag, but if I had Adam Fanua-Blake behind me, I would.
That's
fight
what I mean.
Anyone.
Everyone's got different roles in the side, and you can't have your superstar, your gun, the guy that breaks games open, mentally clouded with rage.
Yeah.
And so, again, I look, I'm not comparing myself to Reece. I'm just saying with my experience coming through, it was just something that, of course, I wanted to, bite back and, whatever. You just got to disengage from it. I remember prelim. So I was playing, really well against the Storm in a semi-final. And Cam Smith to this day says it's one of his favourite games of all time because it was crazy. It was when Greg scored at the end and knocked us out, 2008. And I was playing really well. So guess what Mick Crocker did? Just fucking head-hired me. Knocked me out. And You know what I mean? Like that's what you got to deal with as a smaller, nippy guy that doesn't look that tough.
And that's where the Sean Johnson influence will be great for him.
For sure. It's funny, like even watching it to this day, it was just such a blatant head high, and it was. And because I'm pretty sure earlier in the game I'd scored a try through Crocker, and so he just said I took a scoot, and then I took one scoot and made a lot of meters. The next scoot he just said fuck it. Push.
I think I'd rather a bust than Mick Crocker.
Oh, man. But you know what? That's footy. He did his job. Like, I got up. What's funny is, like, today, I would have been off the field. Back in 2008, Lockyer, you can literally see him picking me back, like, up by the back of my shirt, my like, collaring me like that. And I'm like, and he just, like, sends me back out to the wing. But that's just footy, man. That's footy. You know, it's not the same anymore, but that's, you know, Crocker's the enforcer.
Remember when Crocker almost killed Brett Stewart in that grand final? Ooh, good God.
Good God. But there's certain roles in the team that you can play, and you've got to allow your big dogs to do that. Yep. You know, Adam's going to protect you, Jazz is going to protect you. Disengage. You can keep niggling me all you want. I'm going to score points and get the job done. So hopefully that happens. Outside of that, he's so silky. Remember his debut against the Melbourne Storm?
Certainly do.
2 try assists. And he had 1 or 2 errors, but like, and he debuted probably too early. But still, to have that silk against the Storm, very rare. I mean, look, how many try assists did like Tommy was struggling to make, and that's Tommy Trbojevic. And I'm not saying he's better, but you know what I mean.
I think the other thing about that debut is you got to remember he spent the preseason at Brisbane.
Yeah.
He'd known the blokes at the Warriors for 3 or 4 weeks.
2 try assists.
He came on and moved Roger to the wing and played his best game against the Melbourne Storm, who were on their way to a record.
I've got a tough question for you. If you could sign 10-year deal, Reece Walsh or Jaden Campbell, who would you sign?
I'd probably go Reece because I've seen more of him.
Yeah. Let's assume that Campbell would have continued playing. Let's say he played 20 games as well as he played his 7.
Yeah, in saying that, we've said it a few times. I love that Jaden plays his best football against the best teams, but so does Reece.
Yeah, so does
to
Reece.
Be fair.
Yeah.
The thing that I love about Reece, and I've said it before to you, is that when the game's on the line, he wants the ball in his hands.
Totally.
He no matter there was that game against, I think it was Brisbane.
It was in Brisbane. Against Tigers, I think.
Bro, he couldn't have hit the side of a bus with a football that day. But when the game was on the line, he still wanted the ball.
Totally.
I love that about him. And it's going to win him more games than he loses.
Same with Sam Walker. Similar situation.
Yeah. In answer to your question, I've got no idea.
Yeah. Tough call, eh?
What would you do? I know you love both.
I honestly don't know. Give me another year. We'll ask the question after a year.
Can't believe you fucking asked me.
That's why I was asking, because I don't know. But like the thing that scares me about the Campbell thing, he's got that Campbell blood in him.
Yeah.
And that Campbell blood is something else. We forget Preston Campbell, how good that guy was. But anyway, good signs for Queensland. Good signs for Queensland. Do you consider trying to get Reece Walsh in the Queensland side this year?
Where? You'll have Munster at 6. I assume you'll have KP at 1. Could you play him at 14? Maybe. Yeah. I think you bring him in the squad no matter what.
Yeah.
But I don't know if he'll be. I mean, he's only 1 injury away from being in that conversation.
You reckon, like, I felt like it just seemed weird that he went into camp and then he did his hammy, he didn't play.
It's fucking strange. It was bizarre. It's very Queensland.
Very, very strange. But then he didn't play for the Warriors that week, so that kind of made me think, oh, maybe he did, but it was only 1 week, and I was like, it's your Origin debut.
It seemed like Queensland going, there's a game here, but look over here. There's all this shit going on.
That's what I thought. And maybe, and again, I'm probably thinking too deep into it and whatever. But I truly thought it was, we were under the pump. We had so much drama going on. Let's get the kid in here, Wonder Boy, create a bit of drama, misdirect, take the pressure off Queensland.
Who played fullback when he was ruled out?
Oh, man. Was it
Brimson or not? No?
No, it was because Brimson got injured.
Sorry, put you under the pump
there. Brimson got injured game 1. Oh, no. Brimson was already injured. KP. Oh, man.
Brimson played the year before when the series was at the end
Who did play fullback? It wasn't Cam Munster.
Was he brought in to play fullback, or was he going to be like on the bench or something?
No, I think it was fullback because KP was injured. Because remember how KP kept trying to come back and then it kept extending?
Blank on who their 1 was.
Valentine Holmes.
Val. Yeah, okay. Yep.
Valentine Holmes, pretty sure.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Big call to bring Reece Walsh in when you have got Val.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I'm not confident in saying that was all.
Straining your hammy mid-season. You're a young 18-year-old
19, 18, yeah.
Never had hammy issues. You don't have a lot of muscle mass. What kind of training were you doing to strain your hammy? And you were only out for a week?
And I saw no signs of it for the rest of the season.
And also, there was no images of him limping off with ice.
No, you dodgy bastards. There is no doubt about that.
Maybe I'm too conspiratorial. Maybe I'm a crazy person. Maybe I need to wear a tinfoil hat. But it did seem a bit strange. Now, look, this is a tough gig. I think the Cowboys have a great roster. There's just something that's scaring me for this year for them. I hope Townsend can be the leader that they need in the middle. But let's go through their squad. We've got second row. Average experience, 38. Average age, 22. Wow. Prop. Average experience, 49. Average age, 25. Hooker, average age, 26. Granville puts that up a bit. If you take Granville out, you've got two 23-year-olds, which is 23.
And if you take Cohen Hess out of the second row, which I'm pretty sure he's going to play middle, your average age of 22 goes down to about 20, and your average games goes from 38 to probably 25 to...
Wow. Lock, Jason Taumalolo, I think he's a front rower now.
He always has been a front rower.
Yeah, the front rower playing in a 13 jersey. 25.5 is the average age of the locks. I think in today's game, you've got to play Cotter there. I think we spoke about this last
I think he'll play Origin this year. I think he'll be a real smoky for Origin.
It's a big
if
call.
They play him at 13. I don't know if it is a big call to be like. If you've watched him play, he's an absolute weapon. He's just been injured. He has got. Someone messaged me the other day after
Origin over like Jai Arrow at 13.
Oh, I probably wouldn't have him at 13. I'd probably have him on the bench.
Okay.
But
because he can cover quite a few positions.
Yeah. He can play hooker. It's
a big call. But
it's a big call. But I mean,
it's fair. It's not
you look
too
at the
crazy.
depth of the Queensland pack.
Yeah, it's true.
It seems like a bigger call than what it is when you actually write down the names.
Yeah, fair call. Let us know what you think in the comments section. Was that absolutely fucking outrageous? Has Gurio gone off his fucking head or what? No. It's
clip it up, Matty. Clip it up.
Yeah, but in a year's time. So, you know what's funny is I had a similar situation a couple of years ago. Start of the year, I was like, I wrote a little thing about Lindsay Collins. I was like, if he keeps playing like this, he'll play Origin. Got pizzled in the comment section. Ended up playing Origin.
Got the receipts.
It's like I like if people engage and like totally disagree. Here's my reasons. I really enjoy that because there's so many fans out there that have such a deep knowledge of the game that isn't appreciated.
Yep.
Sometimes I feel like our game or the NRL or whatever doesn't really respect how much of the game the fans really do know. I'm telling you right now, as an ex-NRL player, there are fans out there that have a better understanding of the game. I'm not talking about ins and outs, running lines of the game than a lot of NRL players.
Considering the amount of information that all NRL players get from video sessions and everything, the gap between some of them and players is alarming.
Absolutely. Even a perfect example is when someone was saying, why are you not worried about the Sharks with their half, but you're worried about the Knights and they don't have a half? Now, obviously, we still disagreed, but it was a really good point. It was a really good point. So a lot of fans out there have some fucking great chat that I really do enjoy engaging with. Now, not fans of me, fans of footy. Fuck, I hate the words like bloke in a bar fans. Like it's just like no, we're just the boys. You know what I mean? And the girls, we're just a crew. We're a crew together, loving footy together. Fullback, average age is 23. Valentine Holmes is still only 26 years old. That's outrageous. And he's actually come out and said that he wants to play centre. So you can almost guarantee Hamiso. I actually think he could be a real fucking good centre.
Yeah, he could be.
But he's one of the best wingers in the comp.
He's the best. He was the best fullback at one point. He's been best winger every time he plays for the last 7 years. Now he's playing centre.
That's a good point.
I think he can do well there. Hopefully they give him a license just to roam. But
you know what's insane?
Such a weird career.
If you put Valentine Holmes back on the wing, he becomes the best winger in the comp again.
Straight away.
Like other than Brian To'o, he almost like what he was doing on the edge for Queensland and for Australia and for the Sharky, it's really interesting. But I do believe he could become a good centre if they utilise him correctly. If he's just sitting out there defending and running shit lines, like as in not him running shit lines, but they're making him run the poor lines.
God, it's hard for centres to dominate in teams that aren't going forward.
Yeah, I know.
And I know that's the reality of this. Like if you told me Val Holmes is playing centre for Queensland, I'm worried.
Yeah.
I don't want anything to deal with that, but I don't know. It's hard. I don't know how.
You think Hamiso's ready for fullback?
Probably not, but he probably is the best player there. Yeah. Ideally, I would want to play Drinkwater there, but they don't have someone else to play 5'8". I think Dearden and Chad are probably a little bit too similar.
Drinkwater's like a fullback.
He's a fullback. Fuck, I looked at their website the other day. He's listed as a fullback.
Fuck. I actually don't mind Drinkwater at fullback, Hamiso and Holmes as their centre, or Hamiso as the centre, because he's quite a big boy, tall-wise, when he fills out, and he's quite electric, in 10-metre spaces. And if you went an edge that was Hamiso, Holmes, and then Felt on the other edge, with Drinkwater at the back, I think that's quite a potent edge.
I was thinking about it the other day, and we've said a few times that all their problems are solved if Mick Morgan is still playing rugby league. I was thinking about it the other day. Could you imagine if Tamari Martin was still playing too? That's the other thing. They lost Thurston, Morgan, Tamare in 3 years.
Yeah. And Granville is, even though he rips and tears every week, he has struggled a bit the last couple of years, and he was such a key player in that. He was one of the better players on the field for that grand final. Without Granville, their go forward is nowhere near what it was in 2010.
There was a period of time last year where he was their best fullback and centre. He's a fucking hooker.
Wild.
He's a hooker that's coming. He's on the back nine of his career.
Yeah, and you know what? You know why he was one of their best. And I'm not to say that the other players weren't having a crack, but he was just having such a crack.
He was having the biggest crack.
Yeah, the biggest crack. Now, other players do have cracks, but you could just see that he just wanted to be in everything.
He's 32.
Crazy. So interesting. I just feel like their squad is. Sorry, we'll keep going through it. Wing. The wing, their average age is 23, average experience 47. Centre, average age is 25, average experience is 80. I actually think Hiku is a great pickup. He's such a fucking good player. Halves, they've got Dearden, Chad Townsend, Ben Hampton, and Scott Drinkwater. Average age is 26, average experience is 98. I look at their squad and it just seems a little bit unbalanced. There's something about it that I feel is going to take a year or two to click and put, for example, their backline, outside of Felt, you could argue they have no specialists in each position.
Mate, I'm looking at their halves and their centres. I would argue in their halves, Drinkwater, Hampton, Townsend did, and their best halves player for me isn't a half. Look at their centres. Val, Lume, Hiku, Arcee. Their best centre, Val Holmes, isn't a centre for me. It's a weirdly balanced squad, and I don't think their recruitment or anything has been poor. I think they've just ended up in an awkward situation.
They've been really unlucky.
They have been unlucky, yes, without a doubt.
Because they were banking on Michael Morgan playing for the next 5 years.
Yeah.
And what's crazy is
they should have.
Yeah, absolutely. And what's crazy is you put Michael Morgan in this side, all of a sudden
Drinkwater's a fullback.
Fullback. Townsend and Morgan are great. You put Townsend at 7, Michael Morgan at 6. He gets back to his running game, which is probably his best thing.
Morgan would be more suited to rugby league now than he was for the first 10 years of his career.
If anyone wants to fucking watch a bit of rugby league porn, go watch 2017 Michael Morgan final series. It was some of the best halves footy I've ever seen in my life. It was a la Milford 2015. He was just unbelievable. And who can forget, who was the man? I've told this story before, but some listeners may not have remembered because you don't care about me and you don't listen to my stuff, so whatever. Actually, you know what? I'm not telling the story now. Anyway, so Michael Morgan.
Thought I was back home. Proceed.
My missus all the time. So you don't fucking love me. I'm like, are you serious? I say it every day and I hug you every day. I kiss you every day. Fuck. Anyway. Fuck. Is this a rugby league podcast or a fucking therapy session? Just blokes talking about their missus and everything they go through at home. But anyway, so Michael Morgan, that flick pass, what's really interesting is, so they were doing all through the week, they're obviously training, and he kept training and one hand out and flicking out the back, one hand out, flicking out the back. Anyway, Matt Scott walked over and said, "Mate, if you're not going to do it in a game, don't train it because you're doing it out of your bad hand and you're never going to flick out of your bad hand." Anyway, so it gets into the game. Guess what happens? It is one of the most underrated, underappreciated grand final plays of all time. I personally, this might sound outrageous, I put it up with the Scott Sattler tackle. I put it up near the Benji Marshall flick pass. That's how big of a player it was, in my opinion.
I put it number one. I put it with Joey.
It was, Joey, Manly, down the short side. I put it up there. I don't know if I put it number one, but I just don't think, we never talk really about it that much. Whereas we talk about Benji, we talk about Joey, we talk about Sattler, and rightly so. They were incredible plays.
The defensive line shot up on Thurston. He flicked it out the back. Morgan got it standing still with his entire attacking line in front of him. He had to run in front of them to put them on side.
And they had numbers.
With a line set.
Broncos had numbers as well. The timing and the ability out of your bad hand. I cannot tell you how hard it is to do it out of your good hand because he's left-handed. To do it out of your bad hand and to hold it just long enough to get Corey Oates to turn in, absolutely amazing.
That's what I've said that a few times on my podcast. People mention me, go, the defense was shit. It's like the defense was shit because of the play he made. Yeah. The defenders are responding to what Morgo did in that moment.
Because Corey Oates is thinking, oh shit, Reed's about to miss this tackle and Morgan's going to slide over the line, or potentially. It's very easy to watch a replay in slow mo and go, why'd you fucking turn in? But let's imagine a world where he doesn't flick past and he slides over the line. Why people be blowing up at Corey Oates? Why didn't you wrap the ball up? Now look, hindsight's beautiful. You can say Reed was going to make that tackle, but in that split second moment, very hard to have the nerve to go, I'm just going to trust Reed and not,
after 80 minutes of a grand final.
Yeah,
I would argue with that play, and people are going to lose their heads, but. I would argue that play, because Morgan gets it from a standing start, not if I play the ball, I have it equal with Joey's play, but at least Joey had that moment at dummy half where he could assess.
Yeah.
But Morgan just got the ball. The ball was going left. Morgan didn't even think he was going to touch the pill.
Well, I think when he was on my podcast, this was years ago, he was actually gassed, behind the play because he was gassed and he was done. And also, we forget, Thurston fended off Sam Thaiday. It fucking breaks me heart to talk about it because I thought we had that one, but that play was truly incredible. And from a player that's not a noted offloader. We're not talking about Kurt Gidley. We're not talking about Mark Gasnier.
Yeah.
We're talking about Michael Morgan, who is flicking out of a bad hand. And just a few young players that I really like. Hillam Lukey, I think he's a gun. I love his attitude. He's a big boy, athletically gifted. I thought he brought a lot of energy to the team. Jeremiah Nanai only played 4 games, but I thought he was really impactful.
Yeah, everyone that I talk to from the Cowboys is raving about this guy. So I haven't seen a heap of him, to be honest with you.
I watched I think it was his debut, and he wasn't the biggest or strongest, but he just had that ability to be in the right space, the right time, break tackles, blind breaks, good footwork. Really, really like. I really like him, and Hillam Lukey as well. I think he's fantastic.
I like the winger too, Tuolagi.
Yes,
He's
yes. Strong. I actually thought they should have picked him in Queensland.
It wouldn't have been a bad shout, yeah.
If I recall correctly, there's so much footy you don't remember.
Yeah.
But anyway, I thought he was really good. Kyle Felt, talk about underrated wingers that just... If he's not one of the best clutch finishers in the game, I'm not here. If you watch Cowboys footy... And I know that he's had this last season, he had some up and down games. But if you watch Cowboys footy, the amount of games he has won for them with tries on the buzzer or, I would argue maybe in the comp, he's probably the most clutch.
He's got a knack for it.
Yeah, he's just there. Whether it's a cross-field bomb.
Shocked me he scored the grand final try.
Yeah. He's definitely up there with the best clutch wingers in the game. And I almost feel like if he was at a Sydney club, he'd almost be a bit more appreciated. Kind of like he's a lesser underappreciated person than I know he struggled in Origin this year, but everyone struggled in that first game, so I don't think we'd hold against him. But he's kind of like a lesser version of Daniel Tupou. I think Tupou was honestly one of the greatest wingers we've ever seen. He's just so quiet and humble and respectful. He's got 3 premierships. Anyway, we'll get to the Roosters. Look, I feel sorry for Peyton. I know I'm repeating myself, but I just feel that Peyton went in with a very strong, like, I'm going to bring in my culture and everyone's getting on board. And if you don't get on board, I don't want to hear it. And I think that the whole Taumalolo thing last year, I think that with a more experienced Peyton, he may realise, and again, this is all assumptions because, like, I don't know what the inner workings was. Maybe it was, but what Wayne does really well is Wayne does have double standards. Like, if you're a rookie, you get on board, you don't go out during the week, if you're the man, you're a gun, you get treated differently. And that's the way of the world. Maybe Peyton did do that, but I do feel like he was very, like, even in his post-press conference, did you see it where he was kind of, he would kind of even single out Taumalolo, and it was like he was trying to send a message to the rest of the team, doesn't matter who you are, get on board. But I felt like it was probably the wrong tactic. I felt like he should have used discretion around Taumalolo as you don't need to use him as an example. He's not the example guy, in my opinion. Was that?
But at the exact same time, there's guys like Wayne, there's guys like Trent Robinson, Bellamy, who brain it from the start. The vast majority of coaches need to make mistakes and learn from it.
Yeah.
And he,
for sure,
I think there's a lot of things.
Did you get that feeling, though?
Yeah, for sure, yeah.
That he was trying to come in and say, like, doesn't matter who you are, this is the new Cowboy way. And he may have, like, bungled it a little bit where he was talking quite a lot about, Taumalolo. When you look, I think there was one post-press conference where it was like, Taumalolo's great, but if you look at his defence, he didn't get off the line in this bit. I was like, bro, like that's your main guy. Like,
and I think at the same time, in Todd Payton's mind, I think that there's a world where that approach can be successful.
Absolutely.
But
totally
it wasn't.
Yeah.
And I think now he needs to adjust. I know it's a little thing, but, because you don't see anything out of North Queensland.
Yeah.
But just watching some of their training tapes and the way that he's interacting with players, it does seem to be a bit more of a happier.
I agree. I felt the same
moment.
thing looking at the content. And again, look, it's all smoke and mirrors.
Smoke in the air,
but there does seem to be a vibe. Look, put it this way. It's similar to the Adam O'Brien situation. I felt like he came into the Knights with that Roosters culture, and he just didn't realise, oh shit, like this is a different club with different values and not at the same level as we were at. And I'm not saying Peyton had that mentality, but for example, the Warriors, they may have been a more malleable squad for him because they didn't really have, like, RTS is a different beast to Justin Taumalolo. Not in ability, they're both incredible. So yeah, I honestly thought, and I said at the start of last year, that Cowboys will be the biggest swing side. They'll either surprise everyone or they'll struggle. But I was still surprised that I thought I was a huge fan of Peyton. I still am a huge fan of Peyton. And I think he'll learn a lot from this year. And I think he'll learn that you got to bend a little bit, like, because you're just dealing with so many personalities. Like, even Bellamy, like, people think he's a hard ass, but look how much he's bent for Cameron Munster, Brandon Smith. Do you know what I mean? Even Greg Inglis to an extent. Like, he wasn't the best trainer, everyone knows that, but he's fucking greatest outside back of all time. So, like, Bellamy, even if he has a reputation for being a hard ass, he still bends a bit for his stars.
Yeah, and I remember talking to Brett White last year, and I spoke to him the week after they'd played Melbourne, and he said that he was talking to Bellyache after the game, and guys were coming up behind Belly and slapping him on the arse and stuff, and Brett White just said to him, flat stick, you would have punched me out if I did that in 2007. And he sort of laughed and went, it is what it is sort of thing now. Like, it's changed. And I would argue that I don't think there's ever been a harder time to be a coach of a not top 4 team.
Yeah, totally.
It's tough. It's tough. You have to come in and
Peyton's old school. That's the
very
thing.
Old school.
Like, you watch Peyton play, one of the toughest.
That people forget, because Todd didn't play Origin and stuff, he was tough as nails, and he had a good skill set to him.
100%.
Well.
He would actually be really good in today's game.
He'd be mad today.
Yeah, absolutely.
He'd be their lock forward today.
Yeah. Yep. And so I think that, like, Peyton had that old school kind of mentality that it's so hard. And this is, again, I'm a big fan of Peyton, and I think he'll turn it around. I just think that they were a few of the errors that, in my opinion, as with my huge, vast experience of coaching NRL sides, they were the errors he made.
Once again, if Michael Morgan is playing, all of a sudden Todd Payton's a pretty damn good coach.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, you got to look at the squad and the situation he was left with. I just believe, I really, really hope the Cowboys give Peyton the time to build his own squad, because you can't expect a guy to come in and just turn things around immediately, especially when you lost your franchise player in the first half of the year. And also, you could argue the Clifford thing, just the timing of it was like, oh, Jesus, like we probably shouldn't have let him go. He ended up playing really well. I hope they give him a good 3-4 years to build a roster. Then we can see what he can do.
Because there are good young kids there. There's a couple of back rowers. You've got Hammer. There's a couple of really handy footballers there. It's just...
Hiku is a gun. Hiku is a gun centre. Valentine Holmes, one of the best outside backs in the competition. Drinkwater, if you can somehow get him into that fullback role, or you can develop Hamiso quicker, I totally agree. And Townsend, regardless of how he played last year, is a premiership winning half. You know, it was only 2018 or whatever. I think he won Player of the Year for his team, for his squad club. So it's not all doom and gloom. Not all doom and gloom at all.
Well, I mean, Chad was the last guy to win a premiership in the 7 jersey that's not from the Roosters, Melbourne or Penrith.
Yeah, totally.
Which is crazy to think about.
Absolutely.
I as you said at the start, I am worried about the Cowboys. I think they could double their wins from last year and finish 10th still, though.
Oof. I hope they go all right. I like when Queensland.
Hopefully they do, but yeah.
Yeah,
and
I'm worried too.
Once again, we've just gone through that squad, and that's without them having any injuries.
Yeah. Absolutely. Now, on to the Eels. Look, the Eels, this is their year. They've got to get it done. Like, I just think losing Reid, losing Papali'i, losing Stone. Who else did they lose?
Is that it? Have they...
They lost one other player, I think. Ferguson, they've lost this year. Did they lose anyone else? I thought they lost...
Simonson walked back. Simonson, whichever you said, he walked back in, but...
I thought they lost one other player.
Niokore, has he gone to the Warriors already?
Yeah, Niokore. That's it. I do think that if they don't do it this year, it's not going to turn into it's a complete rebuild. But I do think then it's probably 2 to 3 years before they'll have a crack at it again. Maybe 24 months.
If it goes well.
If it goes well, absolutely. So we've got their second row. We've got average experience 92, average age 26. Front row, average experience 76, average age 24. Hooker, I really like that Mitch Ryan signing. Hooker, average experience 140, average age 27. Lock, average age 26, average experience 76. Fullback, average age is 23. Average experience is 71. Wing, average age is 24. Total experience is 124. Centre, average age 23. Average experience 51. Halves, average age 22. Average experience 61. What are your thoughts on the Eels?
I think it'll be more of the same. I think worst case, they finish 8th.
Yep.
Absolute worst case. In saying that, it will be an interesting year with Papali'i and with Marnie leaving. It'll be interesting to see how that impacts them as a squad. I think they'll be a top 8 side. They could be a top 4 side, but I still don't think they'll compete with those big 3 come finals times. But they got closer than they ever have. I don't think they deserve to lose against Penrith. They're an interesting side. I think you're right. It's this year or it's going to be interesting.
Yeah, this year or it's another 24 months. They'll have to bring someone through. I really like the signing of Mitch Rain in that hooking role. It just gives them so much depth because, put it this way, let's say Mitch Rain plays against the Penrith Panthers for the Eels.
Yep.
Because and this is no disrespect to Ray, because he's not a hooker. He's a great back rower, a great 13.
Unreal 13.
But he really struggled. He really struggled. Made a few errors, and he was just doing his best. There's not much he could do.
The other thing you got to remember with Ray Stone, whilst everyone bagged him, he didn't play all season in reserve grade, then come into first grade.
100%.
He sat in a hotel room for 4 months.
Oh yeah, totally.
And then was expected to be a first grade hooker against Penrith in finals.
I don't for a second look at it as Ray Stone's fault.
Yep.
You know what I mean? I'm not sitting here going, Ray Stone, you're an elite athlete, you're an NRL player, you should have been better. No, he was almost set up for a really tough game.
Gig, yeah.
Put it this way, if he went on and just played average, that would have been a miracle. This guy had barely played any footy, barely played any 9, and he was in one of the biggest pressure cookers, not just for a finals game, period. Like, tell me a tougher game that you've ever watched. It's up there with the toughest game I've ever watched, and he was put there right in the middle. Whereas if you had a guy like Mitch Rain, they probably don't miss a beat.
That's after making, I would guess, 55 tackles in Brisbane against Penrith.
Yes, exactly. But Mitch Rain, 207 NRL games. That's pretty crazy. That seems like a typo. Is that a typo? Can you check that?
No, well, mate, he's been around. What?
I know he's been around.
Did he debut at the Dragons? Is that where
Dragons.
it started?
Yeah, he's a gun.
Did you play with him?
Yeah. He was a gun. But that's like, it's pretty crazy. Like Mitch Rain, 207 games. Like you wouldn't really.
It's not a typo. He's played 207 games, 131 were for the Dragons.
And then did he go to the Gold Coast? Is that?
Then Panthers for 5 games, then Titans for 71 games.
The Panthers stint. Yeah, right.
So I really like that for them. It also kind of future-proofs them. Hodgson's obviously coming next year.
Is Rain? Do you have Rain in your 17 or not?
Maybe at 14. I'll probably have to look at this roster because, maybe Bryce Cartwright is your 14.
I guess, Christian, are you going to play Marnie for 80?
Yeah, probably.
It's not. Yeah, it's not like you've got a young hooker in the team that you're trying to get ready for the year after. You got Hodgson walking in there.
Yeah.
So I would assume Marnie plays 80. I mean, with all due respect to Mitch Rain, I'm hoping we don't see him this year because I want Marnie to play the full season.
There. But what I mean is like, if he plays, if Mitch Rain is in the squad last year,
yeah, exactly,
they make the final.
Yeah, that's fair.
Because they clearly didn't have the depth in a key position that they needed. Maybe not. Maybe Panthers beat them by more. I don't know. I'm just saying that that was a real glaring point for the Eels in that game.
Yeah.
Look at their forward pack. I like it. Junior Paulo, Regan Campbell-Gillard. I think they've really struck up a great pairing. They're still relatively young, only 28 years old each. Isaiah Papali'i, I'm really interested to see if he can back up that year again. Was it just a flash in the pan, a desperate player trying to find his potential, and then he relaxes this year, or he goes to another level? Really, really interesting player, Ryan Madison. Now, I know he gets a negative rap with everything that happened to Tigers or whatever, but when he is playing, I know he struggled with injuries, but when he is playing, he always delivers high quality footy. Yet the whispers are that the Eels aren't going to re-sign him.
I'm a huge Maddo fanboy. Always have been. I think he's a great footballer. I think he's the only bloke in this squad that's won a premiership too, and he played a role for that Roosters side that won in 18 too. But it has been strange at Parramatta. He arrived there, and I thought he's going to shit into Origin this year.
Yeah, for sure.
He got so close. I think he was 18th man twice, missed out, and he really has fallen off the radar a little bit since then. But
he's still delivering quality.
Yeah, 100%.
You know what I mean?
There was a finals game where I think he scored 2 tries in, and he can do things where he can produce a key offload. He can get under a kick, and he's got X factor to him,
and really strong defense.
Yeah, great defender. Yeah, I really like him out there on that right edge. There was times where they weren't using him last year, and I just didn't quite make sense to me.
Yeah.
You could argue Sean Lane's pretty similar. I don't think he has the high-end potential of Brian Madison, but he's sort of
floated. He'd be way cheaper.
Heaps cheaper, yeah, but he's also floated in and out of first grade bench. It's been strange how it's all...
25 years old, way cheaper. It's a tough call.
Yep.
I'm so torn with the Maddo because I agree with you, man. I believe Maddo is an Origin-level player. Like, if you put him in that New South Wales side, I don't think they lose a beat.
Yeah.
Don't get me wrong. I think Angus Crichton and Cam Murray, jeez. Yeah. But if you put Maddo there, it's not like he's going to be exposed or anything. I think he actually goes quite well. But if you're the Eels, do you try to re-sign him? Like, what's going on there?
I would. I don't think there's too many better second rowers out there on the market, but there would be better value. Second rowers out there. I think Madison has sort of got his back against the wall a little bit.
So you think the Eels, because he doesn't play that much footy due to, his injuries and that, do you think the Eels are kind of like, look, mate, you're on a big wicket. Like, we just can't really afford to have a lot of money on a guy that's struggled a bit with injury?
I think it also...
Can you please get up how many games he's played in the last 2 years?
I think it also makes it really tough if I'm Parramatta and I'm looking at Papali'i, who I'm paying a pie and a Coke, and then I look at Madison, who I'm paying a heap. Like, that doesn't... Not that that's the be-all and end-all, but I think it doesn't help Madison's case.
Yeah, for sure. Even Sean Lane, like he had some really good games this year, and you go, oh look, we could really like Sean Lane's never going to break the bank, whereas Madison could really start going up in value.
Niokore filled in at centre and was the best back in the team for 2 months.
Good. How many games has he played last 2 years?
Madison played 17 last year and 19 the year before.
It's not terrible.
Not bad.
It feels like less.
So,
But those were he played over 20 the 3 years before that.
okay, so 19 and 17, it's not bad.
It's not bad at all.
But there was a feeling like that.
It feels like
But also the feeling that I was getting from the Eels and the whispers and rah was kind of like they wanted him in the team more, but like he never. I don't know. Just watching the Eels games, I don't remember him cementing that edge. You know.
I don't know if you can see it there, Matty, how many games he played off the bench this year.
Just the last game in the final.
Was that it?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, right, okay. Yeah, I sort of felt like he's been a little bit on the outside.
That's really surprising.
Have you got his minutes there, by any chance?
I can get him.
Don't stress, but I sort of felt like he was. I thought he was playing off the bench. Maybe he was playing less minutes, but.
Do you think it's the Papali'i effect?
I think it definitely played a role.
Whereas like Papali'i was just rampaging, and so we're all focused on him, whereas Maddo was just getting through his work, and we.
But mate, at the same time, like Papali'i was their best second rower by a country mile, and they moved him into the middle as well. Like it was a weird. I didn't really understand what they were doing with their back row, and then you always had Bryce who was floating along on the bench playing good footy. I would keep Madison around. I think he's got a lot
for sure.
though.
He only played 80 once after round 11.
Yeah, there you go. That's what it is. So he's playing less minutes.
Okay.
Whereas in the first few games, he played 80, 46, 80, 80, 80.
Well, he was an 80-minute player the year before.
And then it went like 59, 70,
he's an
70,
80-minute player for sure.
53, 53, 59, etc.
Oh, okay. So
I also think with Maddo, as much as I like him on the edge, it'd be interesting to see if they didn't have a Nathan Brown to play 13, because I think Maddo would be really good there.
I think he could be a revelation there, because obviously he played 6. I think he debuted at 6.
Yep.
But he's such a fucking big body that not only do you get that basically a third front rower, but you get a guy that can move the pill around.
In saying that, I don't think I can move Nathan Brown.
He brings
I think
so
he has
much
done
to
a
it.
really good. I think he's
What do you reckon Brown on the edge?
I like him at 13. I think that.
What about impact player? Would you consider bringing?
Yeah, I don't mind it. Yeah, but
it's an interesting.
he's just a dog. He just fights for every
100%.
bone. I love him
at 13 too.
Yeah.
I love him at 13 too. Be really interesting. I wonder if in the trials they trial Maddo at 13 to see, what he's got.
Yeah, in saying that, over the last 2 years, Nathan Brown has had his fair share of injuries. They've had opportunities to do it if they wanted to, and they haven't.
True.
But I don't think they're getting the best out of Ryan Madison.
Yep. Oh, they also lost Kofusi, didn't they?
Yes.
Yeah. Wiramu Greg, with a guy like him, he come through and there was a lot of hype around him, and he hasn't
Heap
really.
of hype.
He's a fucking big boy, big mobile boy. What do you reckon's going on there?
Yeah, it's a big bit of gear. I don't know. Came from the Cowboys, right?
Yeah, Cowboys.
With a heap of raps. Yeah. I don't know. But once again, though, when Papali'i leaves, it'd be handy if he was to kick on, I guess. But once again, I feel like we're saying a lot of potential negatives about their pack. I'm so confident they're going to be a top 6 team.
Yeah, I'm speaking from the perspective of I want them to win a premiership.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, I'm not speaking of them like from a perspective of, maybe 8, whatever. I'm speaking of I feel like this is their year. Where do we get the best out of? I'm not saying they will win a premiership. I'm saying I believe that they should believe that they can challenge.
That's
for a
their next
premiership.
step.
Absolutely. They took the Penrith Panthers to the death. That's the closest they've been since 2009.
Yeah.
By a mile.
And if you said to me they're a top 3 regular season team, I don't think I could argue with you.
Yeah. Totally. But you put it this way: if they hung on to their form for an extra 5 to 6 games, you could put them in that. Definitely could in the top 4.
Yeah.
So very, very interesting. I think 2 things. One of my key players is Will Penasini. I just think that he could be something special, but he's also going to fill that void. Ever since they lost Jennings, they lost a lot of strike out there. They lost a lot of speed out there. Penasini is strong. He's powerful. He's got a flick pass. He's young. He's confident. He wants the ball in his hands in a big game. I think that if you can get him paired with a firing Wonga Blake, and Wonga Blake's attack's always been pretty good. His defence has been the concern. Him and Fergo really struggled on that edge there. if you can get Penasini and Blake really firing, I think that's a much more damaging backline than they've had for quite a while. What are your thoughts on that? And I like Opacek too. I feel he's so solid.
I actually thought Opacek did really well when he arrived there. He obviously had a very tough year in his personal life, but
for sure.
I love Penasini. Well, we've spoken about this before. I think that was your Christmas wish list for him just to
100%.
keep kicking on, go to the next level.
Sure.
Wonga Blake's a really interesting one. I almost sometimes think Wonga Blake is a better athlete than he is footballer.
It's fair.
Because he is just such a freak. He is so quick. He's so strong. But I don't know. He just doesn't seem to be able to consistently be the guy that I think he should be based on his ability, if you know what I mean.
I think it's just concentration. It's just like that switching in and out. He's the toughest player ever to coach because you have to have him there because he's so dynamic.
Don't quote me on it, but I remember talking to Roger Fabry 2 years ago, and he came on the podcast and I asked him who's the fastest guy. Is Josh Adokar? Is it blah blah blah? And he said the guy with the best running technique in the NRL is Wonga Blake.
Wow.
He said if I had to show someone a manual of how to run of someone that does it naturally who I can't really help, it's Wonga Blake.
Far out.
Which is scary.
That's pretty scary. Pretty scary. So huge year for Blake though. If he struggles this year, he almost, it's almost Super League time. And that's I agree with you. I think he's got so much potential, and there's been like flashes of brilliance where you're going, holy shit, this guy's the next. He's an Origin centre. So hopefully he can put it together. The tough thing is, I think Opacek is the odd man out. I think that he's going to really struggle. Well, it just depends. If Blake struggles defensively...
But at the same time, mate, at least with Opacek, I know what I'm getting every
That's
week.
what I was going to say. Defensively, you're going to know what
when I get the best Wonga Blake, I'm taking him. But when I get the other Wonga Blake, give me Opacek.
But with a backline that already needs more fire, you know what I mean? Put it this way. I think Penasini, you lock him in for a position.
Yep.
As a young centre, in my opinion anyway. And it's going to be a battle between Blake and Opacek. Do you consider putting Blake to an edge, to a wing?
Well, the other one that I know he's down here as a winger, but I think Hayes Dunster could make a good centre too.
Really?
He's the other one that I like.
He improved out of sight. His first few games, I was like, I don't know if this kid's a first grader. But towards the end of last year, I was really impressed with him.
So who's your wingers then? Sivo locks down one, and then are you going with Hayes or Bailey from Canberra?
Depends. Oh, the Bailey. I'm going Bailey, probably. Going Bailey. I really like Bailey. He gets through so much work. He's elusive. He can score.
Be a good little 14 too, maybe.
Yeah, true. Yeah, it's going to be interesting. They got depth at least. Yep. Now, the key, the deepest key to all of this, in my opinion, is Dylan Brown. If Dylan Brown can fire, they can win a premiership, in my opinion.
Yeah, I wouldn't go as far to say as Mitch Moses and Gutho have hit their peak, but I don't think they're far off it. Dylan Brown...
Nowhere near his peak.
Nowhere near it.
Matter of fact, I would argue that his peak is bigger than Moses and Gutho's.
I think it will be, yeah.
I don't know if he'll ever reach it, but I do believe his potential. This is a big body that his defence is already sorted, that has some of the best running game when he does run the ball. The reason why I say he's the key is because we know Gutho's going to deliver 7 to 8 out of 10 every week. We know Mitchell Moses is going to deliver good, solid footy all year round.
He's going to kick you into games.
He's going to exactly, and I think that 2 years ago, if you said to me, "Is Mitchell Moses a good NRL half?" I would say I'm not sure yet. I think that he's shown enough to say that he's a good NRL half now.
I think the best thing that's happened to Mitch Moses is that his stats have gone down.
Yeah, so he's not that flashy.
He's not the guy that has to chip, flick, cut out. He's kicked corners, put you into the right spots. And
2 years ago, I would have said incredible potential with Mitchell Moses. I would have said he's so silky. He's got some of the best ball skills in the competition. Some of his work that he did when they went on that run and just got knocked out by the Storm, some of his tries in that.
Remember that ball he threw that afternoon where he threw it around his body to Will Smith?
It was incredible. Incredible. So two years ago, I would have said a lot of potential. I don't know if he'll get there yet. I honestly believe now that he is an elite NRL half, and I believe that if you put him in any of the Roosters, Storm, Rabbitohs, that he would continue to flourish and probably win a premiership.
If Mitch Moses' name wasn't Mitch Moses and you watched his Origin Game 3 in a Vortex, you would say, geez, that was a good performance.
He played
from a
well.
losing halfback. I don't care what anyone says,
Yeah.
he played well.
Look, people can disagree. Respect. In my opinion, I thought he had a good debut, but especially the second half.
If Luke Keary played that game and lost, we'd say it was a good game.
Yeah, absolutely.
But I'm saying Mitch Moses played well.
When
People would say
when
it's
New
good.
South Wales were coming back into the game, it was all off the back
all
of
because
Mitchell
of him.
Moses. I totally agree with you there. I was honestly, and again, it's people's opinion and they've every right to it, but I was shocked. I mean, I wasn't shocked because it's Mitchell Moses and he's polarizing. I don't know why, but anyway. But I was also shocked because I was like, were they watching the same game that I was watching? Like, here's a guy that didn't really make any errors. When the game was on the line, he impacted in his Origin game. And then I was like, are we forgetting Cleary's debut? Like, are we forgetting all the other like even Maloney's debut? Like, you know how hard it is to come in at 7 on a debut and not even just not make errors, impact the game.
And then break your back.
Yeah, and literally break your back. And that was early in the game too, wasn't
Heaps
it?
early. Played the whole game with a broken back and did what he did.
Yeah. So
Take out the broken back. Take that out of the
Yeah.
argument. Fine. Still played mad.
I totally agree. I thought it was a good, solid debut. I was very surprised that people were.
Were you
negative.
though?
I mean, I was surprised in that I thought more people would be a bit more like, oh, he was pretty good. I think put it this way, if New South Wales win,
Yeah, different story.
it's a good debut.
It was
I
a
think
very
that-
scoreboard opinion.
Yeah. Whereas if Queensland lost, who's the whipping boy? It's Mitchell Moses.
Yeah.
And I just think that last year, although, yes, I understand that they didn't get to the prelim and it's the same old blah, 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 I do believe he cemented himself as a really top-tier half. I'm not sitting here saying that he's a premiership half yet, but I do believe that you would put him in your, like, if a lower club was to sign him, I think he would lift that club up.
And, mate, to be honest
He
with you.
did that with the Eels.
Yeah, 100%. If next year we get Origin and Cleary's injured and we bring in Mitch Moses, I would rather Cleary, but I'm not panicked.
Yeah, I agree. I would actually, as a Queenslander, I would be, obviously, Cleary is just on a fucking absolute another planet, but I would still be like, oh shit, like Mitchell Moses can put it on, and his kicking game is so good. And if as a Queenslander, I would love to have him in our squad. And look, I know he's a polarizing figure. I think it's because he's so passionate on the field, and so like a lot of people just don't. I don't know that they don't relate to that. But so Mitchell Moses is going to deliver. I think he's just developed so much, especially with the vitriol he's copped. But if Dylan Brown can just find that extra step, I truly believe he can be something special. I truly believe it.
You're still running with him at...
And you know why I believe that?
Yeah.
Because he's cool.
That's why.
Yeah.
Noticed he dyed his hair blonde.
Fucking cool, man.
Immortal status.
Um,
You mentioned last year you consider playing at centre.
Yeah, I'd consider it for sure.
Still, yeah?
Yeah, I'd consider it. Just depends, though, Depends who they have to partner Mitchell. Obviously, I'd keep him at 6. But let's say for some reason it's just not working. I either put him at fullback. I actually think he's got a great fullback's body. Very fucking fast. I would even argue he's probably top 3 fastest 6s in the game. When you watch some of his cover tackles, he's quick.
Yeah, he covers
He's
ground.
quick. I'll either put Mitch and Gutho 6'7", and him at fullback, just to get his confidence back and take that pressure off him, or I'd put him out in the centre and just say run. Don't worry about ball playing. Don't worry. And then and this is look. I'm probably wrong. This is coming from a guy that said that Tom Trbojevic should play centre or 6 when he comes back, because I was concerned about the mileage of his body. I was wrong. He's killed it all year. But with Dylan Brown, the reason why I say if he is struggling, putting him in the centre is because then he has to run. He has to run, and he'll almost gain so much confidence from it. He'll be like, oh shit, I'm actually a really good ball runner. But in saying that, start of the season, it's 6 and 7 Mitchell Moses. We have to remember these guys took the premiers to the death. They had the best year they've had since 2009. And that was with Dylan Brown at 6. And also, over the last few years since his debut, him and Mitch Moses actually haven't played that much footy together. Because whenever last season, when Brown was out, Mitch was in. When Mitch was out, Brown was in. So interesting times. I think the Eels are in a great spot. I really do. I really think they're in a good spot. They've just got to nail the recruitment for the next year or two.
Just shows how hard it is, though, that you can be in such a good spot.
Yeah.
yet be a distance away from winning a comp, in my opinion. Still,
Yeah.
hopefully I'm wrong, but shows how hard the NRL is.
Oh, yeah,
That there's
totally.
10 teams this year that were just absolute battlers. There's a gap between them and Parramatta, and then there's a gap between Parramatta and the other.
The thing that frustrates me, and sorry to go back to this, the thing that frustrates me with the Mitchell Moses situation is they were wooden spooners when he came. Like, I think he came and they won the wooden spoon, and now they're a top 6 side. He's a huge part of that.
I
So is
think,
Gutho.
weren't they over the cap and they were coming last?
Yeah, yeah. So, like,
It was...
that's where I'm like, you know, there's always the argument of line of, could he do this in a bad team? Could he lift this bad team up? Mitchell Moses has done that, and so has Gutho, and a lot of other people. But
I hate that argument.
Yeah,
I hate that argument. For
I don't like
everyone.
it either.
It's the shittest argument.
I don't like it either. I don't like
People
it
will
either.
say, could Cooper Cronk have done it for the Tigers? I'm like, he didn't have to.
They say it
Good
all
teams wanted him.
They say it all the time about Tedesco.
Yeah.
And I'm like, wait, did you watch him at the Tigers? Did you watch his Origin debut? He was incredible at the Tigers. The problem, it's like Payne Haas. Let's say Payne Haas goes to the Roosters next year and kills it, and they're like, oh yeah, but could he do it at a shit team? It's like, yeah, he could. That's what Teddy did before he went to the Roosters. Yeah, but they didn't make the finals. They didn't make the finals. You know what I mean? That's always a fucking argument. It's like, bruh.
I also think it's also a case of, if you're a gun player, and gun teams want you, you're gonna play for gun teams.
Absolutely. And sometimes it's really a bizarre thing, but you can get a gun player, goes back to reserve grade, and he plays like a busted. And you're like, what the fuck? Like, this is reserve grade. He should be killing it. Goes into first grade, because he has better players around him, it almost releases him to do what he does best. Anyway, so look, Eels, I still think they're a step away. I agree with you. But if Dylan Brown can fire, I think Dylan Brown and Penasini, if they fire, I think that they can be the kind of like the kindle to light the fire into something special. Now, on to the reigning premiers. We have the second row. Average experience, 63. Average age, 26. Prop. Average experience, 57. Average age, 23. Hooker. Average experience is 36. Average age is 26. Lock. Average age is 26. Average experience, 53. Fullback. Average age is 23. Average experience, 67. Wing. Average experience, 47. Average age, 24. Centre, average experience 22, average age 20. Far out. That's fucking wild. Halves, average experience 45, average age 24, the Goldilocks zone. What do you reckon about the Penny Panthers?
I think they'll be a top 3 team this year. I think they will be treading water until finals, and their season begins. The guy I'm really excited about is Isaac Tago. I think he will play left centre for them. I think he's going to be an absolute weapon. He has done incredibly well in New South Wales Cup. I went through some of his stats earlier today for my podcast, and some of the stuff he's doing in New South Wales Cup, I think it was 10 games, 9 tries. He's averaging 5 tackle breaks. He's going for 160 metres. Like,
what position do you... Like, I watched him play, and he was coming on it from 14, I think.
Yeah, he was playing like on the right edge.
Centre and that. Yeah. He's one of those weird guys where it's like, is he a centre? Is he a winger? Is he a lock?
I reckon when you see him play centre, you'll go, oh, okay, he's a centre.
He's a centre, you reckon, specialist?
I reckon when he plays left side. He played left side in Reggie's last year for the start of the season. Yeah. Burton was his 6, and he had another gun, Taylor May, outside him.
Taylor May's who I'm excited for.
Well,
his debut, 200 metres, 2 tries, absolute fucking beast.
When Brian Totter goes to play Origin.
Could you please get up... Tago, is it?
There's Isaac Tago, and then there's Talon May.
Isaac Tago. Could you get his height and weight? Because he looks a bit not tiny, but not big for a centre these days. When you've got guys like,
fair.
And that's why I wonder. It's like when Staggs first came in, I was like, I don't know what he is. He's quite stocky, but is he rangy enough for a centre? Obviously, he filled out and he became, who he is.
Yeah.
What do you got there?
So his height is 184 centimetres and his weight is 93 kilos.
184?
Yeah.
Okay, so he's 6 foot, 93. So he probably fill out to about, okay. No, that's okay, fair enough.
He's 19 years old.
He seems shorter. Do you reckon he seems shorter than 184?
I don't, but as I said, I've watched him play centre in Reggie's.
Yeah.
And I think once you see that, you'll change your mind on him.
Yeah, okay.
I think he will brain it this year.
Hearing that he's 6 foot, that
Yeah.
Okay, he's clearly big enough for centre. I just, when I was watching him play, maybe he's a bit like Slater where they play always low.
Yeah. He's also in a big football team too, though.
Yeah, true. So 93 kilos. Wow, that's actually the fact that he's really mobile. He's actually the perfect size. 6 foot. He'll probably hit by the time he matures about your 97, 96, which is what you want as a. So he'd be on the smaller end of the centres when you've got guys like Trell and Tom Travoy.
But he's like Toto. He's strong as all.
Yeah, 100%. Oh, I love him.
He's got a little kicking game to him as well.
Oh, does he?
Like sort of like a Wade Graham. He can drop it on the toe. He set up a few tries and got a few line dropouts in Reggie. So
I loved him when he made his debut and he was playing. The energy he brought to that Penrith side was so good. Like, again, please don't conflate me kind of working out in my mind if he's a centre or a winger or a back rower, because that's not me saying he's not good. It's just like sometimes you can look at a player and you see...
Actually saying he's better.
Exactly, because like he was so explosive when he came off the bench.
But he will be a guy, he'll start at centre and as his career moves on, he'll be a back rower.
You reckon end up in the back row? Yep, for sure.
He can handle himself in both.
Yeah, I think he'll probably play his best footy in the back row because he's so explosive and his energy, like just his... He was much stronger than his size suggested when he made his debut. Often young guys, when they come in, they struggle in the contact. It's like Suwali. I was so surprised Suwali how well he handled the contact. But yeah, I think Togo's going to be really good. Talon May for me, I think. Put it this way, I'm a huge fan of Staines. I don't think he kicked on the way we thought he was going to kick on.
Yep.
And I think there's a real concern that Talon may take his spot this year if he doesn't become what we saw he could become.
In your mind, Toto left wing, are we sticking with Tago at left centre? Well, let's say hypothetical. We are. You got to fix Stephen Crichton, I assume. Is he playing right? I think
wherever Crichton wants to play, that's where he plays. So whatever combo has, I think Crichton has always been on Luai's side. So
he was the year before last year, was on the right side.
Yeah. Okay. I think you go Luai, Crichton, To'o.
On the left.
And then
right, you're going to go... Because you got to remember, Paul Momirovski's gone now too. So their right centre's gone.
Yeah, Naden's gone.
So I think they'll keep Crichton on the right just to keep a bit of...
balance it.
Yeah.
And so it's not too one-sided.
I wouldn't be surprised if Taylor May's the right wing, sorry. I agree. I think...
I just like the combo of Luai. Their attack was the best in 2020, and if I recall correctly, it was Luai, Crichton, To'o.
It was, yeah.
And they were fucking unstoppable.
I honestly thought, as much as the end of the season it didn't stack up attacking-wise, I thought they were more dangerous with a Matt Burton who had a bit more to his game.
Yeah, he was
a bit more of a passing game and whatnot. Once again, if I'm playing Stephen Crichton at right centre, do whatever the hell. If you want to pop up wherever, do it.
Yep. I honestly, just by going off last year's form, I would actually start Talon May over Charlie Staines.
Yep.
In saying that, you can't replace speed, and he is that old school finisher that every team wished they had. But it's just going to be. I just felt like last season. Maybe it was because we were comparing him to To'o, and To'o was just absolutely braining it. And maybe that was the issue, is that To'o was the winger that they were constantly passing to, so Staines just didn't get the opportunities that you thought he would. But maybe it's second year syndrome. Maybe he just. I
think you got to remember with Staines too. He arrived and he scored 5 or 6 tries in his first game, which. With all due respect, Charlie Staines, in that position, a lot of wingers would have scored those 5 tries, and that's not taking anything away from Charlie Staines.
He did have some brilliance, though.
For sure, but it built the narrative. I'll never forget the night that he scored those 5 tries. I had someone message me going, at this rate, he'll beat Ken Irvine's record. And I went...
Bruh, come on.
Yeah, and he went, no, I'm serious. And I thought he was taking the piss with me. But yeah, it's I feel like we built the Charlie Staines narrative was built really high early, and I feel a little bit sorry for him.
Yeah, for sure. I can see that. The good thing is look at their depth for the wingers. So Talon May, he's not a centre. I think he's a winger. They've got, this is their wingers: Brian To'o, Robert Jennings, who was actually fantastic last year at the Storm. Was it the Storm last year? Was he? Was that the other brother?
Is that the same Rob? Yeah, I think he's still there. The one at Melbourne's still there. I'm pretty
George
confident.
Jennings.
George Jennings is
yeah,
still at
okay.
Melbourne, yeah.
But Robin Jennings.
Robin can play, though.
He can fucking play. Charlie, so this is their wingers. Brian To'o, Jennings, Staines, and Talon May. They could lose 2 wingers and still have Staines and Talon May as their winger.
And be fine. Yeah.
And be fucking sweet. Then you look at their centres, like, you know, you can always move Talon May into the centre. You got Crichton, you got Tago. Jennings can even play centre. Fuck, it's a good squad. Now onto their forward pack. Isaiah Yeo, I mean, do we need to say more? Front row. I cannot wait to see 2 players. Liam Martin and Spencer Leniu this year. I think they're really... I think Liam Martin, like, after Origin, he struggled a little bit.
Some sting out of him.
I think it's going to be a massive year for Liam Martin because he's going to get that opportunity, that the Capewell position, most likely.
I think he will, yeah.
And I just think it's going to give him enough game time to really show what he is a dog. A motherfucking dog. Runs a beautiful line. Very different player to Kurt Capewell. Capewell was he's very elusive and like very tough to handle because you don't really know. Is he running a hard line? Is he going overs? Capewell was almost like a centre playing back row.
Whereas
Liam Martin, very traditional hole runner, dog, get through a lot of fucking work. So I can't wait to see him play. But Spencer Leniu, it seemed like he fell out of favour a little bit towards the end there. But the impact, he's still only 21 years old. He absolutely killed it coming through the juniors. And even when he was 19 or 20, he was coming on and skittling blokes. So I really want to see his development this year, especially rotating with Fisher Harris and Leota.
I think Spencer announced himself when he replaced Tavita at the back end of last season. I thought he was unbelievable in those 2 games. He was, and as much as he only played 20 minutes, but the 20 minutes he played, he really got Penrith on top.
100%.
Yeah, I think that any reservations that Cleary had about Spencer Leniu, I think he answered those questions.
Yeah,
in the back
because
end
there
of the
was a
finals.
period there where it seemed where Ivan wasn't really sure if he was ready yet to be the impact player.
Was it Leniu that Freddie spoke about?
No, I think
was
it
that
was
Leota?
Me. It was me. Oh no, yeah,
it's you,
Leota.
Yeah.
But I was saying, and it was like just crazy talk in the sense of like at the time I was saying this is a crazy thing. But I was like, man, Spencer Leniu off the bench for New South Wales, I reckon he would fucking do damage in the middle there. But you're right. I think Freddie did talk about Leota.
Leota, was it? Yeah, okay. Yeah.
Which is a fair shout.
To have those 2 with James Fisher-Harris, who...
26 still.
Yeah, it's insane.
He's 26. James Fisher-Harris is 20 fucking 6. Like they've got their front row locked in for the next. Moses Leota, 26. These are premiership winning fucking props.
And the way that Fisher-Harris plays, he's not Payne Haas. So I just can't see, even if he's at the peak of his career right now for the next 5 years, it's not going to dip that much at all.
I don't think it'll dip. I think the only dip will maybe, isn't as destructive skittling blokes where you're going, holy shit, Fisher Harris just changed the game. But he's still making 170, 180 metres and getting through a lot of good work. Viliami Kikau, going to be a really interesting year for him. Really interesting year. I think he's matured so much as a player over the last couple of years, especially his defence. Everything that happened, he's obviously going to... Fuck, the doggies recruited well. They got Marnie and Kickout coming. How they got that done, I'll never know.
They got Jordan Belfort in there selling them. That's impressive.
Man. Honestly, Kickout and Marnie, and then the year before that, Tavita Pangai Jr., Paul Vaughan, Dufty, Adokar, Burton. That, you could argue it's the greatest recruit. They wooden spoon team.
I think there's a fair argument it could be the greatest recruitment
drive ever.
knock ever.
It's just insane.
If you would have said to me, would you rather be the Canterbury Bulldogs finishing last in recruiting or the Dolphins with Wayne Bennett? I mean, you could argue at this point, what Canterbury have done, their recruitment has probably been more impressive thus far. Dolphins have got a long way to go, I understand that.
Yeah.
But they shouldn't have been able to do what they did.
No way. How they've managed to convince cream of the crop players, arguably some best in position, to go to that club is just... even the Broncos were struggling to get players to the club for a little bit there.
It's a one-club town. Should be easy.
It's absolutely incredible.
Yeah.
Absolutely incredible. yeah, look, the Penny Panthers, we all know what's going to happen here. They look amazing. I truly believe, and I know it's hyperbolic, and I don't care, I'm saying it, we're witnessing greatness with Nathan Cleary. We're witnessing greatness, in my opinion. I just think that when you look at, when you look at what he has already achieved, and when he plays, it looks like he has the game in the palm of his hand. He controls everything. Go watch that grand final. His kicking game was centimetre perfect. Like, it was Cooper Cronk-esque.
Adam Reynolds was very similar, but because Cleary's was so good, no one talks about it.
Yeah, totally. The kicking game, he was landing the ball literally 50 centimetres from the try line. Like, just right there. Just right there.
Whenever I talk about Cleary now and it's something special to watch, I agree with you. And people comment and go, this, that, the coach's son. Like, I don't even respond anymore because I'm like, you know what? If you want to miss out on something special
100%.
that you're going to regret for the rest of your life that you didn't enjoy this when it was happening, your loss.
Totally agree. Like, we're witnessing a moment. Cleary could have two quiet years, do nothing, and still be 26 years old, and go to any club he wanted to. And like, it's just, we're witnessing greatness. He's already won 3 Origins. He's won Origin players of. Did he win a player of the series or won man of the match? I think in the game 3. In the grand final, he was instrumental. Like, tell me one part of Cleary's game that isn't the best. He's got the most metres for a halfback run. His kicking game, I believe it's the best in the comp right now.
He's the best defensive halfback.
He's the best defensive halfback. He is probably the most creative. Some of the tries he's put, like, even the getting the ball out of hookup, boom, kick straight over to Crichton, try time. Like, it's amazing. And I love watching it because if you've spoken to Cleary, this bloke couldn't be more humbled if he tried. You almost want to shake him and go, oi, Nathan, do you know who you are, bro? You're Nathan fucking Cleary. You are the man. But he's still very, very... What I loved about Cleary this year, I had so much respect for him when I seen it. So last year, they lose the grand final. He throws that intercept, and it's just a devastating moment for it. Guess who was still up to come on podcasts and talk about
100%.
it? He came on my podcast. He spoke about it. He was open for it. Goes on, has one of the greatest years you'll ever see from a 7. One of the better ones anyway. Guess who was still going on podcasts and talking about it? Kept the same energy as when he was at the depths of it, like absolute depths. Not only did he lose a grand final, he lost an Origin series. Wins a grand final, wins an Origin series by a record amount, and he went on your podcast.
Mate, he came on my podcast. We did it via Zoom because of COVID, and whatever device he was using died halfway through. And he rang me and, mate, he must have apologised 35 times to me. I felt like saying, can you shut up? Shut up and let's just talk. He was the most down-to-earth, nice guy. I mean, on top of all the stuff you mentioned, he's finished second in the Dally M's twice. Blows me away he didn't win it in 2020.
Yeah, that was crazy. No disrespect.
No disrespect to Jack, but fuck.
Cleary should have won.
There was the best player in the competition. It was Nathan Cleary. If it wasn't for Trbojevic's greatest season of all time...
he nails it.
Like, then he backs it up with a Clive.
What more could you... When people, are negative or whatever, and don't get me wrong, there's not too many anymore. Cleary has become so good that you have to respect him.
Yeah, as much as you want to bitch and whine and hate, you can't deny, you can't respect what he's done.
Like, honestly, it's just incredible. And again, I have so much respect for a man that acts the same when he's at the depths of the depths, like lost to the worst Queensland side in 40 years, even though he didn't say that. None of the New South Wales boys did. Devastating loss for New South Wales. Like, think about, he just lost a grand final, and then he lost that series. Like, think about how low you would be, and you're the main guy. Still did all. I would
argue that no one was more criticised than Nathan Cleary during that off season. He lost 4 games of football and came second in the Dally M medal at 23, and he was the most criticised player in the competition.
And that second half, they in the grand final, they came back. Like, I know you could say the Storm put the Q on the rack, but at the end of the day, that Cleary try was outrageous, where he fucking bumped like 3 people and then steamed over the try line. Like, that's when I saw that. That's when I truly, truly knew, we got greatness here, because he struggled that first half, and to come back and be like, get on me back, boys, we're going here. We're going to have a crack at one of the greatest comebacks of all time.
And he's not halfway through his career yet.
No, it's mental.
He could still have another decade to go.
Yeah. And Cleary's the type of player, truly, that any club could sign and he will take that team into finals. He could take any team. Like, think about it. Let's say he signed with...
He signed with the Cowboys. They're a top 8 team.
They're a top 8 team. Signed with the Tigers, top 8 team. So, yeah, incredible. I think interesting year for Luai. I think he's a kind of like an unsung hero. He's such a yin to Cleary's yang. He just fits in perfectly. I think that it was such a, a lot of people disagreed with Ivan Cleary when he chose Luai over Burton to partner him. It was a huge call. But you have to say, like, don't get me wrong, Burton will most...
I wanted Burton.
Yeah. I mean, I said Luai, but I only said Luai because of the fact that I knew that Cleary and Luai had played together before, juniors, and that's so important.
And that's the other thing long term. I mean, you look at how close Brian Toto, Stephen Crichton, like, these guys could all take a little bit. Like, they're a genuine team that I could see taking less money for the rest 100%. Of their careers to stay together.
Absolutely.
So, Nathan Cleary, I mean, he's won premiership, won Clive Churchill with 10, 12 years to go in his career, and he could be surrounded by absolute studs the entire time.
Well, I think he will be. I think they're in a position where...
And, mate, they haven't even started to swing their dick in the market
That's
yet.
what I was going to say.
Yeah.
I was going to say, like, this is a team that even... Let's say Crichton gets offered a milli somewhere. They just go straight into the market. Boom, straight into the market. And are you telling me there isn't... Think about the young kids in Penrith right now. Guns, one of the biggest areas for rugby league that are frothing on rugby league. Like the 14, 15-year-olds. It's almost like the young kids in Queensland when the Broncos in the early 2000s that were just like, I would die to play for the Broncos. That's what's happening in Penrith right now. We've got these young kids that are representing the area more than we've ever... I don't think we've ever seen an NRL team truly represent an area the way Penrith do. It's exciting times for Penrith, exciting times.
And then I think for the next number of years, you're going to have Nathan Cleary, Isaiah Yeo running the New South Wales team with rep players around them, building relationships there, seeing how dominant they can be. Like, there's just more and more draw cards coming in, and I know a lot of people have negatives on Ivan Cleary still. Is there a coach that just backs his guys in more?
I just think he's develops into such a good coach. I think that you could have the negative, the negatives a few years ago, but we have to remember coaches are developing too. Like, they don't just come out of the womb knowing how to coach. But another thing to remember, Ivan Cleary took the Tigers from one win of finals footy. The next year, they just kept going down and down and down. Yeah. I think people forget, because it happened so... Like, I understand that, yes, he left his contract, and I understand why Tigers fans would be pissed. Like, I get that. But he had that squad one win away from finals, the best they've played in a very long time. The next few years, they had the same squad, and it wasn't anywhere near as good. So he deserves his raps, Ivan Cleary.
And respectfully to Tigers fans, tell me he made the wrong decision.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with you. It clearly was right. I think Ivan sat down and said, look, integrity-wise and all that kind of stuff, yes, it is technically the wrong thing, but I'm willing to wear that for the opportunity to coach my son. It's a right call. I don't think he's regretting it. I think he's regretting it. Like, imagine the moment that he had putting the Clive Churchill over his son's neck after they've just won a premiership. Is there a greater moment in a dad's life ever?
I don't think so.
It's got to be the greatest. After the first year he arrived, they got smashed in the meat. Like, they were struggling to put wins together. It was a bad call. How could you get rid of Hook? Oh my God, the son and the father have too much power. Like, they got annihilated in the media. And then, boom, premiership. Incredible. Another big year. Now, on to the Dragons. It's been bandied around a lot lately. The Moneyball side. So we've got second row. Average experience 76, average age 26. Prop heavy. Holy shit. They got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. 9 props. Average age is 27. Average experience is 110. I like that. Man, knowing Hook, this is such a Hook side. Like,
it's got Hook written all over.
Like, he's such a forward pack dominant, like orientated side. Hooker, got Sullivan in there, but, I personally don't think that they should be putting him in hooker. But in saying that, if it gets him playing first grade, he gets him playing first grade. Average age is 26. Average experience 148. Lock. Only one specialist lock, Jack DeBellin. One good specialist locked at that.
If you're going to have one.
Yeah, it's that guy. I mean, everything that happened was quite terrible, but, he was Origin. And now, he's in a... He played some decent footy this year. Decent footy. He's 30 years old. Average experience is 165 games. Fullback, Moses Mbai, Tyrell Sloan. I think that you would definitely see Sloan in the fullback position. Average age 24. Tyrell Sloan is 19. Wing, only 2 wingers. Oh, fuck. So they're fullback and wing light, but they've got a million centres. Their wing, they've got 2 wingers, Ramsey and Ravalawa. Average age is 23, average experience 36. Centre, 6 centres, average age 23, average experience 54. It's funny because when Hook took over the Broncos, he started making me play centre. So he must love his centres, man, because, clearly I'm not a centre. Halves, they have their average experience is 95, average age is 23. What are your thoughts on the Dragons?
Well, it's going to be one hell of a team playing in reserve grade, isn't it, with that depth? Fuck me. Look at that list of props. The gap between the best one and the worst one, I don't know who's the best, I don't know who's the worst. They are just all solid.
Yeah, 100%.
All solid. Totally. You could lose 3 front rowers, and I'm not sure how much changes realistically. Burgess, obviously the standout name there, with Moose getting... Geez, I thought Moose would have been older than 31. Is that right?
Yeah, he's 31. Yeah, he's 31.
Wow. George Burgess, I know there's obviously some concerns about injuries and stuff he has, but I mean, after seeing what Tom did this year, last 2 years, that could be absolutely anything for George. So I hope that he really hits the ground running. I mean, mate, you look at all those forwards, there's a heap there, and then you got to consider, I'm pretty sure Jack Bird's going to play in the forwards this year too. So
I think he's a 13, Jack Bird.
You know what? I have said since the day I saw Jack Bird when he was 16, he's a lock.
Yeah.
But I think DeBellin is too good and too important to this side
so
to move,
true.
which sucks. It's awful.
Yeah.
I don't know where you play Bird.
Probably on an edge, maybe.
Yeah.
Big enough for an edge with some of those big boys. There's some fucking big edges getting around.
Yeah, but you got some damn good edge. I mean, Tariq Sims has to be one of them, even though apparently they don't want him, which blows me away. You'd have to think Jaden Sewer's going to get a gig on one of those edges. Fulimano, he'll be there and thereabouts. And that's if they don't play Josh Kerr in the second row like they did last year in bits and pieces. So
Kerr's a front rower for me.
Yeah,
he's out and out front rower. Yeah, it's such a hook side, man. This forward, the amount of fucking forwards he's got.
Especially when you consider you got all these guys to pick from, and the 13 jersey for me is out of the question because DeBellin is locked in there.
DeBellin's such a quality 13. Such a quality 13. Yeah, man, it's going to be interesting. I think the Dragons side is probably the most up in the air of who's going to get what spot. Especially in the forward pack. Like, who do you start? Josh Maguire wasn't starting last year. He kind of edged to the bench.
Well,
towards
Maguire, I believe, which won't shock you, I think he's suspended for the first 6 weeks.
Fuck.
Shocker. Love Moose, though. Huge fan. I would start with Laurie and I think Burgess.
Yep.
Oh, you got Woodsy, though.
I'd start with Woods for sure.
Yeah.
I'd start with Woods for sure.
Probably. Tell you who else has got potential? This Francis Molo.
Yeah, 100% for sure.
And the unknown on this one is Jaden Hunt.
Yep.
Now, in Reggie's over the last few years, he's been about a 65-minute front rower and he just goes berserk. Workload is insane. So there really is a lot of depth in the pack there.
The only concern I have is like, who's their wow player, Like, who's their fuck me? I mean, Sewer can be it on the edge if he continues to develop.
Well, for me, it's Sims, but they don't seem to want him.
I mean, what's surprising about the Sims is like how early they said you will not be re-signed, almost as if to put pressure on him to leave now.
When you consider the amount of guys they're signing, and he's the one guy they don't want.
It's just surprising. Maybe he's on just such a big wicket. They're trying to free up cap space because I mean their recruitment was truly about value. Like that was what they're looking for: experience and value. It's such a hook side, Dragons are interesting. They were so close. I don't mind what they've done because when you recruit like this and you look at this forward pack, the positive is if you've got no superstars, it's very easy to mould a forward pack then and be like, this is who we are. Everyone get on board. No egos. Everything in check. And Hook's really good at doing that. And so the positive is I think they could be a real handful for a lot of teams. that are thinking they're going down playing, a bottom four side and getting surprised of how gritty, almost like a Sharks of yesteryear, where it's just a fucking shit fight.
Yeah.
Not Premiership Shark, yesteryear Sharks.
But I come back to it again. I tipped them to finish bottom 2 last year.
I thought Wooden Spoon.
After that Charity Shield game where Latrell played touch footy with them and just took the piss out of them for an hour and a half, I thought they would be right at the bottom. If the barbecue didn't happen, I think they can potentially finish 7th or 8th, which still last year isn't overly impressive, but they're a finals team all of a sudden.
Yep. Have a look at these fucking centres, bro. Zach Lomax, Moses Sully.
Mate, the forward pack is well, they're fine. The centre's a gun. I think it just comes down to Ben Hunt playing 25 games.
Ben Hunt and a 6 that delivers week in, week out. Amon is really, really good, but the test now will be, can he play structured footy and deliver week in, week out? Because Ben Hunt can only do so much to deliver the ball to Lomax, to Sully. But fuck, man. I mean, Matt and Max Fagai, they're guns. They're young guns. Tata Moga on his day is a really good centre. It's interesting.
There's a heap of teams I'd rather play than the Dragons.
Oh, for sure. I think the Fagai twins will probably play on the wing. I think, the wing, they're a little bit light on the wing.
Sorry, do you have Sully as a centre?
For sure.
Yeah.
Sure.
So Sully and Lomax, and then the FA guys. Where are the wingers?
Just the page before. It's only Ravalawa and Ramsey. Ravalawa has so much potential, man. He's a big body, good ball runner.
Such rocks and diamonds, though.
Yeah,
he's got so much potential. I agree.
So, where do you put Moses Mbye on this side?
I don't, to be honest with you. I think Moses is a great player. He's going to be a great guy to have in your squad. But I need to get those 3 young guys into this side. I can't leave McCulloch out of it. I agree with you. What's his name is not a hooker. I'm blanking. Sullivan. But I've got to have him in this team. Because if I don't, he's going to be playing for Redcliffe next year.
Yeah, it's tough. It's a tough, Because he's NRL quality, and you need to get him in there eventually.
Yeah. No team is worse for having Mbye. Every team is better to have Mbye in their squad.
I just think Moses will, as a 14 at a club that's not in turmoil, he's got a bit of confidence behind him. I think he could bring quite a lot off the bench for the Dragons. I just think he could bring a lot of when they're so young around that spine. Like they got Ben Hunt and McCulloch, but at 6 young, fullback young. I just think that I even think that there may be a tiny chance that he could land a 6 role. A tiny chance. I would start a Moan, but who knows? Like Hook loves experience, loves it. So you could even go a Moan 14, Moses 6.
You could, and I wouldn't be surprised if he does do it too, but I think you've got to get these young guys playing footy or you're going to lose them.
For sure. And also, like you're not going to win a premiership this year. I mean, if they do, it'll be one of the great stories. So why not begin that preparation for when you can, which is a Moan.
Fuck, I thought Mbye was older than 28, to be fair.
That's what I think Mbye's got a lot to offer, man. I just think that at the Tigers, Madge was so not a fan of him, which is weird because he ended up being captain.
He's fucking captain.
But then
he was there for 3 years and he was their captain. He didn't know what position he was.
Yeah, and then they pushed it like they wanted him gone.
Yeah.
And I just think the environment that he was there, who did play well in that environment?
Yep.
Other than Adam Dewey last year. I just think for a guy that was already established, Moses Mbye coming into that, he didn't even get a long-term shot at a position, I think coming to the Dragons, Hook's going to back him. He's 28, man. 28. Plenty of footy left in him.
If you were to build a football team around Moses Mbye in just a vacuum, what position do you think is his best position?
Probably a 6. I think he's a 6. I really do. I think he's a 6. He's a good ball runner, solid defence, good ball player, definitely a good enough ball player. I think he's a 6. I don't think he's the dominant half. I think you need Benny Hunt as the dominant half. I think he might pair quite well with Brucey and just give Ben Hunt that little bit of space he needs to breathe so it's not as much pressure on him. Whereas You put a Moan in there. It's all on Ben Hunt. And don't get me wrong, Ben Hunt stepped up to the plate. He had one of his best years. I'm undecided. It depends what you're going for. Are you going for results now? Maybe you do put a Moan at 14 and then just say to Mbai, you've got the first 5 games. If a Moan comes on and kills it, it's his spot. Or if Sullivan's killing reserve grade, it's his spot. Or you put Moses Mbai on the bench and you say to a Moan or Sullivan, you've got 5 games to see how you go. If you're struggling, we're going to put Mbai in there. I don't know. It's tough.
Yeah, I've got no idea what the answer is,
It's tough.
to be honest with you.
How do you think Sewer's going to go?
Yeah, I like Sewer. I find it weird how Wayne Bennett fluctuated with him so much.
Yeah.
One minute he was calling him Tony Carroll, the next minute he wouldn't pick him in his 25-man squad.
Yeah.
It's a bit of a red flag for me, but we've seen him handle himself in the Origin arena. We've seen him, he can be that don't fuck with me second rower that you need, but yeah, I don't know. Does he start?
I think he starts. I think he's on a decent wicket there. I think he's probably their biggest signing, really. I think he starts.
I wonder if they get to a point where it is like I think there will be a decision where it has to be: do we start Sewer or Jack Bird?
Yeah, fuck. That's
So I'm not sure if he does. I think he's in the 17 for sure.
Could you play Bird at 6?
I was just about to say that, then I thought it just complicates it too much.
Yeah. Fuck, it's tough, man. Bird's like such a curse of being such a good all-rounder.
Yeah, it's the same as Mbai, and I have people say you hate Mbai. I don't. I like Mbai, but he is really good at a heap of things, which is great.
Yeah.
But for me, he's not fantastic at a single thing, which isn't a versatility is great.
I just think that he was a victim of the Tiger situation. Before he went to the, he's going okay, but yeah, it's tough. I'm not sure.
Man, it was like it at Canterbury too. He was a halfback, he was a hooker, he was a fullback. What's the...
Yeah.
Versatility is such a curse.
Yeah, it really is. Look at Connor Watson, for example. Far out. Now, on to the Rabbitohs. Average age is 26 in the second row, experience 77. Average experience in the props is 91. Average age is 26. Hooker, average age 26. Average experience 85. Lock, average age is 25. Average experience is 82. Fullback, average age is 21. Far out, Nicholls only 24.
It's fucked up.
Fucking hell. Average experience is 45. Wing, average age is 26. Average experience is 120. Centre, average age is 23. Average experience is 26. Halves, average age is 24. Average experience is 50. Really interesting year. This is my biggest swing side. In the sense of they could challenge for a premiership again. But also it could start snowballing. They start the season poorly. Dimitri's under pressure. The media is just lapping it up. Oh my God, the Wayne Bennett factor, Adam Reynolds factor. I think that they'll finish top 6, but I do believe that there is a world we live in where things start getting out of hand.
I also think they could get out of hand and they could finish 8th though.
That's what I mean. For example, Cody Walker gets injured.
Yeah, then you're in some serious Barney. Very interesting side. I still think there's an argument that Adam Reynolds was still the most underrated player in the comp last year for what he did week to week.
Yeah.
And all the applauds. Cody's a freak. He's a gun, no doubt.
I thought it was Adam Reynolds' best season. Aside, he got injured.
100%.
He got injured at the end in the finals, but before that, I thought it was his best season.
Yeah, but what he does doesn't show up on stat sheet.
Yeah,
and highlights.
For sure.
I still think Wayne's a bigger loss though.
It's a big loss, man. Big loss. I'm so interested to see how they go. It could be sweet, you know what I mean? It could really, who knows, the young fella coming in could really inject energy that maybe they didn't have there. I'm not sure. Any side with Latrell Mitchell in it is a fucking scary side. Any side with a 23-year-old Cameron Murray, already played 100 NRL games.
And I think over the last few years, we've also been not blessed, but I think we've got used to, because the Roosters and the Storm are in so many grand finals and Penrith, there's a lot of teams before that have made grand finals and then just gone, and all of a sudden shit the bed.
We'll look at Raiders.
Look at the Raiders. There's been a heap of sides that have done it.
Warriors
in the past.
2011.
Yep, that are just, they're on the radar and then they're gone. And it's the same guys, same troops. You lose a halfback.
Yeah, I think they'll go okay, but I truly do believe there is a chance. For example, what if Tom Burgess goes down? These are props. Are Tom Burgess, Knight, Totola, Nicholls, and Mayoli.
We'll say he's young, but that Davey Moali, keep an eye on him.
Yep.
He's a very talented footballer. There's also another one, and someone was talking to me about him the other day. Matty, I'm not sure if you the fullback, Terrell, is it? Apology for pronouncing it. Callow.
18 years old.
I was told the other day there's a chance that he could grab a starting spot. He's that good, apparently.
In what position? Wing or something?
Wing or centre, yeah.
Wow.
They've obviously got a spot to fill with Gagai leaving.
Yeah. Gagai's another huge loss that we don't talk about.
Massive loss.
The amount of times that he would just like bring them back together with a hard, tough run out of his own end is absolutely outrageous. He would get points. You know, you got to remember, Gagai's been the tippity top centre for, 10 years now? Yeah, I don't know where my head's at with the Rabbitohs because it's such an unknown. I love, like, their back row is fucking fantastic. Selly, Arrow, Murray.
Isn't Selly underrated?
Yeah, fucking oath. Kolomatangi, Chikam, Host. Their back row is really fucking good.
Oh, I think I think he's been underutilised his entire... Every time he came in for the Tigers, he killed it.
I know, it's weird.
He's won a couple of games off
literally.
the top of his head as a second rower.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I just don't know what to say. They're probably a little bit light in the front row. If Tom Burgess goes down, like, it's almost nearly as bad as if Cody Walker goes down.
You know what? It's all right to be light in the front row when Wayne Bennett's your coach.
Yeah.
Without Wayne, it's a bit of a worry.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting. I think still top six.
Yep.
Top six. But they've got a great roster still. They've got a great roster.
And they've got enough stars in key positions
for sure.
to be able to handle themselves.
You know, that Cam Murray Walker Cook combo is so fucking deadly.
Yeah.
So deadly. The back row is really strong. Just the front row. I wonder who they got. If I was recruiting, I'd probably be recruiting in that front row there. I just think that they need maybe one or two more big boppers.
If this Mawali kicks on this year, it'll solve a lot of problems.
Okay.
Whether he does or not, I don't know.
Is he a big boy?
Yeah, he's a very, I don't want to say Payne Haas mould, but he's that sort of.
So he's that big?
Yeah, he's big, tackle break. Yeah,
okay.
He's a big bit of gear.
Okay.
He's young, like he's 18, as you can see.
Yep. He's already played 2 games. Wow.
Yeah, well, he was... Yeah, he debuted in that game that they had this year where it got delayed 24 hours or whatever. But he's a local guy. He was a Coogee Wombat. Very talented.
It's going to be interesting. I think Havili was a good pickup for him. Good backup. He can play 14.
Yep.
I think he will probably jag that 14 role, him or Chikam, but probably Havili because he can play in the forwards.
Is Cook still an 80-minute 9 for you?
Yeah, I think so. Until he proves otherwise, I think he's earned that.
This Mamazelos, very talented too.
Yep. Isn't he?
Hooker.
Which is the guy that is tips to get that 7 role?
Lachlan Ilias.
Yeah, Lachlan Ilias.
Well, I mean, that's the other thing. I think when they're full strength and Latrell's back, I think Taft's going to be 14.
Oh, you reckon Taft will get 14 over Havili?
You've got to have him in the team somewhere, don't you?
See, I would probably go with Havili at 14.
So you're leaving Taff out, or you're playing him at 7?
Yeah, I'm probably leaving him out, letting him develop.
Yeah, right.
Continue to develop in reserve grade. How old is Taff? 22, plenty of time.
Yeah.
I probably put Taff in reserve grade, play him at 6 or 7. We know he can play fullback, and that way it kind of covers you if they're really light in the halves.
Yep.
So I don't know. I just want him as much game time as possible playing in the halves in New South Wales Cup.
The other one that'll be a smoky for round 1 is this Isaiah Tass. He's apparently very impressive.
Oh, yeah, he's at the Broncos, I think.
Things,
yeah. Interesting that he's 22 and he hasn't debuted yet, though.
Yeah.
Campbell Graham is so underrated. He's played 90 NRL games. 22. Campbell Graham is fucking so underrated,
Criminally underrated.
It's going to be interesting. I personally would be... I understand, like, Taff, if you were just looking at talent, I'd put him at 14. But if you're looking at like squad and what you may need or may not need, I think he actually gets more value playing 80 minutes in the halves in New South Wales Cup. Whereas like playing 20 minutes here or there coming off the bench in hooker or whatever, That's not leading a team around. That's not. Whereas, let's say Lachlan Ilias doesn't kick on, they've literally got no one else to come in and fill that role.
I will say this though: last year they did at times need a bit of Benji Spark at 14 to come on and lift them. So I personally, I would go with Taff. I think you bring that little X factor off the bench. I like Havili, as you said, but I just think if you're going to play Cook for 80 minutes and I'm going to pick a second row on the bench, I'd probably rather have Cheekham than a Havili.
Okay.
But,
Now,
I just thought Taff was so good last season.
Yeah, he was good.
So impressive.
Absolutely, especially with the pressure he was under.
Yeah.
Now, onto the Roosters. Fucking what a roster. What a roster. Average age of their second row is 23. Average age of their front row is 27. Fuck, that is good balance. Average age of their hooker is 23. Average age of their lock is 24. Average age of their fullback, 29, but it's just named Tedesco. Average age of their wingers is 27. Average age of their centres is about 24. Average age of their halves is 24. I mean, what a fucking roster. Angus Crichton, Satili Tupanua.
I think Satili's going to have the season.
Fuck, he had some good games last year.
I was having a look at, I think, Matty, if you can have a look, David Fafita off the top of the dome, I think he scored 17 tries last year. Satili scored 12 with teenagers as halves. I was looking at Luke Keary's first 2 games the other day. So against Manly, who were awful at that stage, against the Tigers, fair enough. They scored 16 tries, 12 were down the right edge with Cleary on the field.
Far out.
The other 2 were under the stick. So right side, I reckon Joey Manu and Satili are in for big seasons.
And is Tupu on that right side as well?
No, he's left.
He's left.
So that right side winger you would have to assume will be one of Kev Naguama or
Momorowski.
Momorowski.
Yeah.
I think it'll be Momorowski because they need a goal kicker.
The person that I am super, super keen to watch in the Rooster system is one Renouf Atoni.
Yeah. It's going to be a gun. He is going to be Sam Moa 2.0.
He is a fucking big boy, big athletic boy. At the Dogs, showed a lot of promise. They're playing him 13. I don't think he's a 13. I think he's a prop.
You know, it shit me the entire time at Canterbury. They played Adam Elliott in the second row instead of 13. They played this guy at 13 instead of in the front row. They're both going to leave and do really well.
Yeah, it's crazy. I just never understood it. For the life of me, I'm like, do you not see the new game? Like, this guy's a beast. Like, and
you could tell he wasn't comfortable in the role.
Yeah, he's not a ball player. He's a big, big athletic boy. I think he's going to be fantastic. I really think he's going to add a lot to their forward pack. Lindsay Collins, I can't wait for his return. I think that he will ease out Hargreaves. I think we'll probably see a Hargreaves retirement the next 24 months. And Lindsay Collins will take that spot. Not to say that Hargreaves he's playing fucking almost career best footy, honestly.
Does he get to 300? He's at 260.
24 months. Fuck.
2 seasons, about
20
games or something. 50. Yeah, it's going to be tough. You can only miss 10 of the next 2.
Yeah. So, yeah, basically.
Still, though, to play the villain for 260 first
it's crazy.
Games.
The way he's bashed his body up but still kept that aggression up is incredible. I really, this roster is, I really think the Roosters are on here. I really think they're a premiership, like an absolute premiership threat. No doubt about it. I mean, look at they've got Nat Butcher, Egan Butcher, Fletcher Baker as well, all on the bench. Like they can't even get a second row spot.
Egan will be a kangaroo one day.
Like Angus Crichton and Satili Tupanua, you could argue that's the best back row in the comp. Angus Crichton, Victor Radley, Satili.
Yep.
Like, fuck me. And then your front rowers are Hargreaves and Collins, with Tokiaho coming off the bench. It is just a beast of a forward pack. Beast of a forward pack.
I think that I think for the next 2 or 3 years with this squad, every year they don't win a premiership is a failure for them to some extent.
Totally. They should be in a grand final.
Yeah.
This squad is outrageous. I mean, they've got 4 hookers. Sam Verrills, Connor Watson, Freddie Lussick, Ben Marshke. If Connor Watson can turn into the hooker that suits this game, he could be anything. And when we forget, Sam Verrills started the match to win the premiership for the Roosters.
Scored the first try.
They are just shockers. I mean, Victor Radley goes down. Oh, sorry, you got a placement with Connor Watson in the third. Like, it is just Tedesco at the back. He never has a bad game. Tupu, one of the best wingers we've seen. Suwali is still 18 years old. Think about that. This kid, I think he's going to have a crazy year. I think he's a great year. Their centers, Suwali and Manu. Look at that. just incredible. Incredible.
Mate, that's
Billy Smith.
Kevin Nguama, you haven't got him in the side. Like Paul Momirovski. There's a lot of talent in this side. Fuck it. If they're in serious trouble and they have to play Adam Kieran, he killed it every time he played too.
Yeah. He came as a half and he's a gun centre now. Billy Smith, he's a freak. He's just been injured.
Just needs to get a run. Yeah. So you got Tupu left wing. Who's you need to find a left centre and a right wing.
I'm putting Suwali in. Suwali's got a spot. He's the future.
Do you on the other? So are you playing him at right wing? Put him outside Joey, or do you play him at left centre?
Depends.
Left centre's a big day for his age.
But he went all right at it when he debuted. He went all right at it.
Yeah, 26 weeks though, 30 weeks when you're playing for the Roosters.
I think depends how he's training. I'd probably put him on the wing to begin with because you've got such depth on that left centre. And then I'd probably either start Kevin Nangama or Paul Momirovski. But I mean, it could be Billy Smith. Billy Smith's had some crack. Like his 5 games have been high quality.
I think Momirovski will get a spot there because he's the best goal kicker in the squad.
Okay.
I think he will get in there somewhere.
He's a gun too. Momirovski's a fucking gun.
I actually don't think they'll play Suwali round 1, to be honest.
You don't reckon he'll make that round 1 side?
Not round 1. I think as the season goes on, he will, but I think they'll ease him into it.
I don't know. I watched him
talent-wise, he could be there. I'm not arguing that. I just think they'll ease him in.
I watched him last year, and I just felt he really did handle the contact really well for a young fella. Like he was 17, he didn't struggle for the contact at all. And I think when you've got generational talents like that, just get him in and get him playing footy. It's like he's got the same hype as like Inglis had, or maybe a little bit less because Inglis was absolutely dominating Queensland Cup.
I also think Suwali, if he was at another club, I'd be like, get him in, get him experience. Yeah. But, mate, he's gaining as much experience Monday to Friday at this club as he is probably playing like it's...
If he's physically ready and they believe he can the season and it's not going to batter him about, I put him in. I think he's just got so much upside. Like he can be their Latrell. Like we haven't seen it yet. Latrell's actually done it. But that game-breaking outside back that they pair with Manu... Ooh.
Tell you what always, and I know people don't like talking about the Roosters, and that's fair, but whenever I see their training pictures,
looks intense.
Oh, but like you see Sam Walker, like 18-year-old, then you look in the background and Cooper Cronk's standing there.
Yeah,
you see Suwali and Brett Morris are standing next to him. You see Egan Butcher and fucking Boyd Corden are standing next to him.
Crazy. Their whole system.
You see Teddy and Minicello standing next to him. You're just going, fuck.
Yeah. And the cheese is coming.
Like you're honestly getting better Monday to Friday than you are. Like and then you got to throw Brandon Smith in. Jake Friend will be standing next to Brandon Smith next year.
Yeah, fuck. It's just There's a premiership in the next 2 or 3 years for these guys. Absolutely. Kiri's going to come back with a bang.
Yeah. And then in 3 years' time, all your front rowers will be standing next to Jared Rea-Hargraves, who will be there every day.
Yeah. Yeah, I think they're a premiership threat, man. A real premiership threat. They managed to finish, 5th?
With no one.
With fucking decimation.
Yeah, with journeymen and teenagers as halves.
Yeah, it's crazy times for the Roosters. Crazy times. Now, Tigers. Is this the last team? Yes. Second row, average age 23, average experience 36. Props, they're props, average age 25, average experience is 90. I like that. Hooker, average age is 23, average experience 36. Lock, average age is... Yeah, average age. Alex Twala is not a lock. I don't know why they have him down as a lock. He's a front rower. Average
that's
age
how they play, unfortunately. Hopefully they don't. Hopefully they chuck Peach in there. Yeah. But
average age 27.5. Average experience 134. Fullback. Average age 22. Wing. Average age is 27. Average experience 100. Centre. Average age 21. Wow, for that many centres, jeez. Average age experience is 8. Halves, average age is about 25. Average experience is 73. What do you think about the Tigers?
What I will say, obviously, when you look at the centres, the average experience, 46, age 21, that's a bit of a rattling number, but, Gildart's played a number of seasons over in England. I think they'll play Adam Dewey at centre. I don't think they should, but I think they will.
No, surely not.
Bro, he was the best player in their team last year and he still played him at fucking centre.
Surely not. They can't.
Now they've actually got someone that can play 6 in Hastings. I think they will.
What about Hastings at 13?
I can tell you he doesn't want to play 13. Doesn't want to make 40 tackles. But then why have Peachy?
Yeah. No, I understand where you're coming
from. The way
from.
that I see it playing out, Adam Dewey's out for the first 6 to 8 weeks. If Matt, can you get the Tigers draw up? They play the Storm round 1. After that, it's a pretty easy draw. I think Hastings will, in that easier run, cement himself as the 6, and then I think they'll bring Dewey back, and I think he'll end up playing centre, right centre.
He goes Storm, Knights, Warriors, Titans, Sharks, Eels, Rabbitohs, Dragons.
Good start to the season. Fuck. Other than
I think
Storm.
they can be 4-1 until you get to the Rabbitohs.
Yeah.
And, nah.
Yeah, I mean, you throw in the fact that he's not fit because of his injury. Yeah, I can see him coming back in the centres.
He was their best player
Fuck.
by a country mile in the backs last year, and he moved him from 6 to centre.
I couldn't believe that. Like, I honestly couldn't believe
and
that.
they won that weekend. I would argue they didn't play fantastic, but it was a W.
Yep.
Stefano's the one for me, though.
He was so good. After he came out of that Origin camp, he just changed.
Someone asked me to say Origin Smokies, and for New South Wales, I sort of said, look, Pappy, Radley, maybe. I reckon he's the other one.
Sure.
He
100%.
could make a debut.
Yeah, I totally agree. He was outstanding at the end of the year. Only 21 years old, big body. Reminds me, I hate to make the comparison, but he reminds me a lot of Payne Haas.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was fantastic. I really do. Look, I don't mind it. Like, I think this squad can sneak into the 8. Like, if they do everything right and they all get behind it, and Hastings is a player and Luke Brooks plays as well as he did a couple of years ago, I think they could sneak in. But I think they'll land around that 10th.
Can I throw another positional potential for you? You mentioned playing Hastings at 13, which I don't hate, but I want Peach there. It's blatantly obvious that Madge isn't happy with either of these hookers. He swapped and changed them all last year, then he went and signed Appy.
Yep.
If you're going to bring Dewey into 60, you potentially play Hastings at 9.
Does he want to get through that many tackles, though, Hastings? I don't think he does. I think Hastings wants to be the dominant player.
Oh, I know Hastings. Yeah, he wants to be the guy, but...
Do you play Hastings 7, Brooks at 6? I actually would. I would prefer moving Brooks to 6 to just say run, bro. Like, just run. You're a good ball player, but you're such a good ball runner as well.
Yeah, I think that this Dewey injury will be a blessing in disguise for the first 6 weeks, because I think it'll sort out a bit of shit, and it'll give up an opportunity for Hastings to really stamp himself on this team, which I think he will.
Yeah, I think with the 9 role, he's got to pick someone and just, Little was touted to be, a huge not next big thing, but, a big deal.
He kind of was, though. When he was young, he was like, he did get a heap of injuries, to be fair.
Yeah.
Jake Simpkin has got a lot of raps on him. I think he's solid without being... it doesn't matter. Appy's there next year.
Yeah, it's true. So do you just go for the guy that has the experience because you want to get the wins, as in, like, you go for Little because he's played more games? It's more, it's a safer bet at the moment.
Yeah, I think so, but once again, you've got this problem the day that Dewey returns.
Yeah.
He's your best player and you're playing him in the wrong position.
Yeah, it's tough. I mean, it just depends how good Hastings goes. It's a lot of pressure on Hastings because, like, Super League is, as we all know, it's one thing, and there are some top tier clubs that are solid in Super League, but I do believe that Hastings. I don't think he's going to be shocked, but I think that.
At least with Hastings, though, he's been here before, and I know the game has changed. I understand that, but he has played in the NRL before.
Oh, for sure. But he played at Manly and the Roosters. I think it's if he does manage to turn this Tigers around, it'll be one of the great redemption stories we've ever seen. Coming into a Tigers, like, don't get me wrong, their off season's been great. They've recruited really well. But let's not forget what happened last year. Like, it was
and I'm not saying I think Jackson Hastings makes them a top 8 team. I'm not saying that in any way, shape, or form. But I think they can improve with the guy. The other one that I think is good is Jock Madden. He's another half. There's also another half back there who isn't on our list. He's got a double barrel last name. He might be in their reserve grade one if you can have a look. Yeah, I can't even think of one of his double barrel
I do believe Hastings is a great signing.
Docker Clay. Is he on there? Yeah. Sorry, go.
I was saying I do believe Hastings is a good signing. Absolutely. There's no denying that. I just think that he's got a huge task ahead of him.
Oh, for sure. Yep.
Huge task. Far out. Brooks is 27. I thought he was younger than that.
Well, he came through with Ted and Moses, remember?
Yeah, true. Hastings still only 26. Wow. That's crazy.
Yeah, there are a couple of young guys there. Jock Madden, he's handy. This Zach Docker-Clay played reserve grade last year. I think he's still there. Radio silence from there worries me, though.
Yeah, I don't think he's in their top 30, but he's in the reserve squad.
That's a good call by me. Yeah. How do you think Gildart goes? Have you seen much of him?
With Super League players,
It's a red flag.
It's not a red flag. It's just like until I see you in NRL, I have no.
I always get
judgment.
worried about outside backs from England.
Yeah, I have no judgment, good or bad. Like I don't know. You may have gone great in Super League, but until you're in the NRL and I can see you playing in the NRL, that's when I can make a case for it.
It also doesn't change those numbers, but obviously Stafford Toa's joined since we published.
I think he helps. I think he helps a lot to that back line.
Definitely doesn't hinder it.
I think Sean Bloor is really underrated. I thought he really was finding his own for a period there before I think he got injured. I loved his battle with Nathan Brown. Was it either last year or the year before?
He was like a New South Wales under-20s captain and everything coming through. Yeah, he's a prop. Penrith were filthy to lose him.
He's a I liked what he had to offer. Luciano Leilua, going to be really interesting to see how he plays this year. I thought he was one of their better players last year, but after signing with the Cowboys and whispers that maybe an early release, they got their Madge has got an uphill battle to get the best out of Leilua because it's just when you sign so far out, you just don't know whether the player. Like I'm not saying Leilua isn't going to be committed. But when there's all this talk about releases and you know what I mean, it just doesn't help the situation.
And they're a club with enough fires.
Absolutely.
The one that I really like is Luke Garner.
Yeah.
When I saw him a few years ago, I sort of thought, he's very meat and potato. But the more I see him, the more I like him.
Yep. Look, I don't think they'll make the finals, but I do believe that if I'm the Tigers and I say I'm the board and I'm speaking to Madge, I'm saying to Madge, we are preparing for next year when Api Coruscant and Papali'i get here. So whatever you need to do to create systems and partnerships and whatever, let's do that.
Yeah,
that's what I would personally be doing. I would be putting a lot of stock in Dane Laurie. I think he was absolutely fantastic last year. I would be picking players, around the fact that Papali'i and Api are going to be there. But they've had a good off-season.
I think they want to finish this season with a clear idea. 2023, our halfback will be, but our 5'8" will be.
I think they need to make a call on Brooks this year. And maybe it's all just smoke and all nonsense because Tim Sheen has come out and said, no, he's our half and, stop carrying on. But I think that as a club, they're just got to make a call on him. And he's going to... Not even the club make a call on him. I think he needs to make a call as well. Make a
decision. He's at a real crossroads.
I think he's got so much ability, man. And yes, he won Player of the Year this year, and some people don't agree with that. But a few years ago, he won the Dally M halfback of the year. And yes, he was in a side that wasn't that great, but
he can play though.
He can fucking play. He's just the Tigers. Tell me anyone that's gone well since 2011 or something.
If we walk out of this studio and look at our phone and it says Luke Brooks going to Canterbury, I'm so much more into Canterbury all of a sudden.
Absolutely. Him with Burton?
Yeah, I think it'd be unreal. I think there's so many. If I walk out and Luke Brooks is at the Newcastle Knights, my stocks are a lot more higher for Newcastle as well.
Totally
I think he's
agree.
still got plenty more to offer.
I totally agree. I think he's got a much more to offer. So, look, I think the Tigers have done fantastic, their recruitment. Just a rung below the Bulldogs.
Yeah.
But for them to be able to get, after the turmoil they were going through, to get Api and Papali'i, I think it's a great get. And Stafford Toa.
Well, apologies to Matt too. Stafford Toa is on there.
Okay.
Missed him, he's in the wingers. This little Bible you've come up with.
That is it. That is the last 8 teams done and dusted. Make sure to follow the Guru at Rugby League Guru on Instagram, Rugby League Guru on Facebook. Subscribe to the Guru podcast on all good podcasting apps. Got anything to say?
No, I think I'm done.
You're done?
Yeah.
I'll go and fuck myself. Thank you.